Welcome back to another FPL reaction stream, and yes, I have returned already. There is so much to discuss after the Saturday matches, and there is still one going on right now between Tottenham Hotspur and Wolves. I'll be watching it live as much as I can whilst answering your questions and having a bit more of a chilled stream. There is no deadline to adhere to, at least for today, but there will be one for Tuesday for UCL Fantasy, so I'll keep this short and sweet. I mean, that's the hope and the aim, but it also depends on, the people who turn up and the things that are being said in the live chat. So I'll get straight into your comments as always. You know the drill by now. Drop a like, subscribe, all that good stuff. It goes a long way to supporting the channel. Thank you for all the support throughout the last couple of weeks. It has been incredible, and there'll be even more content to look forward to. Keep your eyes peeled for the best wildcard and limitless squads. The same goes to my team selection for UCL Fantasy. And on Tuesday, as I referred to just a few seconds ago, there will be a deadline stream going into match day 2. And afterwards, the focus will then shift back towards FPL once again. Kevy says, big day for Haaland captainers. Need a Spurs clean sheet wipeout here. Yes, so obviously for those that are unaware, you might be thinking, Pedro Porro, he's a clean sheet against Wolves. Well, he's not starting the game, and it's not a massive surprise. I was actually breaking it down earlier, talking about a doggy starting today, and when I kind of thought about it, I was like, maybe I'm in a bit of trouble here in terms of my defensive line, because there is a chance that Porro is benched. I thought he'd start against Wolves and then get the bench against Bodo Glimt, but for those looking to invest in UCL Fantasy, I would be more keen on doing so now. I think what Tottenham will end up doing is starting Jed Spence and Pedro Porro in a couple of days' time, and it will be a doggy dropping back to the bench. But of course, all I wanted here was for Porro to start, and that isn't the case. He'll probably come on for a one-pointer. Vendog says, I've been playing FPL since 2013, and that's the first time my triple captain has actually worked. Fair play. You are a man of a lot of experience. I haven't played FPL for that long, and yeah, it can be very frustrating to have these boosters like the bench boost and also the triple captaincy, and it just doesn't really turn out that way. But I've been quite lucky with Erling Haaland anyway, because last season I triple captained him in Gameweek 2. And obviously a lot of people did it against Southampton at home. I think it was in Gameweek 6, if I'm not mistaken, around that time. And he scored a hat-trick against Ipswich Town when I put the armband on him, the triple captaincy, and a lot of people only got a 6-pointer when they went for Erling Haaland. And obviously, it looked like that sort of game week here, with only 1 assist, but he stat-padded towards the end. Maybe those Burnley defenders had Haaland in their FPL teams, and they thought, yeah, we lost the game anyway, why not? And I would have explained quite a lot about their defending. 2 own goals by Steph. Shout out to him, because for one of them, he denied Phil Foden from scoring, and I was convinced after that Bruno Fernandes disaster class that Phil Foden would end up hauling massively. Tom Mills says, triple captain Haaland, yay. First big decision I get right this season. I feel the same way as you, mate. It's the only reason I'm on a green arrow. If it wasn't for that, I'd be on another significant red. And yeah, it's difficult to kind of analyze and say, this decision was down to skill or this one was bad luck. But yeah, sometimes you can have these 50-50 calls and it seems like it goes the other way. But with Erling Haaland, it was a logical choice. Even if he ended up blanking or getting that 1 assist, I still thought it was the best triple captaincy opportunity for the first half of the season. And will there be a player who outscores him? Absolutely, but this was almost the guarantee of a massive return, and it almost wasn't, but he stat-padded at the very end. Jose the Special Mo says, I had a dilemma on who to choose, Bruno Fernandes, Foden or Mbumo. All 3 of them didn't have a good performance today. That's the good thing about it. If you went for Bruno Fernandes like myself, I still think long-term he's the best of the 3, but yeah, to get a yellow card, miss a penalty, be 1 defensive action away from DEFCON, it was an extremely frustrating performance from Bruno Fernandes, to say the least. On another day, you're looking at a massive return like he did against Burnley and Chelsea over the last couple of weeks. Our defence today was horrible. Yes, conceding 7 big chances, but as always, Liverpool looked potent or threatening in terms of the attack. Wirtz missed a huge chance. Isak as well missed a couple of opportunities. Mohamed Salah towards the end of the first half. So ultimately, I think Palace could have been 2 or 3-0 up by the first half, but then Liverpool were the better team in the second. So if it ended up as a 1-1 draw, I think not many people would have complained about that. And if there were to be a winner, maybe Crystal Palace deserved it, as Arne Slot said in his press conference. Sudindra says, City win and Haaland triple captain success. Captain Doku in FPL Challenge 2. Now hoping Richarlison hauls. Well, I've got Richarlison in FPL Challenge, as I'll show you very soon, but I really hope he blanks, and I hope Tottenham concede and lose the game. But I am asking for a lot here. And yeah, I need to actually break it down and see what Wolves have gone for. But with Spurs, I saw the lineup, and the only thing I really look for is if Pedro Porro is starting. And it's not a huge surprise to see he's on the bench. Hope Porro comes in later because I only have Dorgu to auto-sub later if Porro doesn't come on. Well, in my situation, I've got Lacroix ready to come in, so I would love it if he didn't make a single cameo or appearance, but yeah, he's going to come on for a few minutes, unfortunately. Native Face says, going to wildcard out Triple Forest. I've had enough of those frauds. Yeah, Chris Wood sold me dreams after that brace against Brentford in Gameweek 1 because one of my kind of recommendations throughout pre-season was to potentially avoid Chris Wood despite some decent fixtures, and that's because he ended the last season very poorly. And yet, after that brace, maybe I was sold dreams and I was just like, you know what, I want Chris Wood in as soon as possible, but it just has been a horrible decision, to say the least. Cylinder says, got Watkins, Dewsbury Hall, Anderson to play. Hope I can reach inside the top 500, 800k this game week. Hope your team is cooking well too, Dylan. It's doing okay. It's basically Erling Haaland carrying me with a triple captaincy. Semenyo scored, and ultimately he's the best midfielder in FPL right now. I bought him in a bit late, but better late than never, right? Apart from that, Lacroix 4 points on my bench. Bruno Fernandes -1 point. Robert Sanchez probably hard done by with yet another red card for Chelsea. So that could have been a clean sheet. Ultimately, though, yeah, it's good to see Brian get a late victory there. Fair play to them. Yeah, Chelsea need to sort out their defensive line, and I know they've got a lot of injuries and stuff, but I've said this time after time again, they have no chance of competing for the Premier League and, you know, these big trophies with that sort of defensive line and Sanchez in goal, and that's cost them in back-to-back games now. You could argue against Brentford and Bayern Munich as well. Kevy says nearly had an Mbumo assist, but Bruno missing the pen was worth it. Yes, Mbumo did win that penalty against his former club, and Bruno Fernandes with his second penalty miss of the season. Yes, same here, second there, but thankfully, at least in my case, I did triple captain Haaland, and yeah, if it wasn't for that, I'd probably be raging a little bit more and cussing Bruno Fernandes. I was certainly not a happy man earlier today. Porro benched, I hope he stays there. Same here, Emma Connell, or O'Connell, and to make things even better, it would be absolutely amazing if Wolves did the unthinkable today. They are a bogey team for Tottenham Hotspur, and if the Lily Whites do win tonight, they will move up to second in the Premier League table. We've got some surprise names up there, like Sunderland in the top 3, Crystal Palace also second. They're unbeaten, the only Premier League team, of course, to still have that sort of record. And very soon it'll be Happy Invincible Day if anyone does celebrate. Jumpers for Goalpost says, well done Sunderland. Oh yes, 4th. Guaranteed points next week against United. I wouldn't say guaranteed. It could just be a late jammy penalty for Bruno Fernandes if he actually scores this time. But yeah, Sunderland have a chance for sure. They're looking really solid right now. And it goes to show that you can't always judge things based on last season or, you know, from the preseason games. Because if you looked at it, Sunderland were really poor in the Championship last season with their defensive stats. They were also very inconsistent. And throughout preseason, they lost most of their games. But with a lot of good signings, they started this season on fire. Will it continue? I do expect a drop-off, but you've got to give them credit, and they're very solid defensively, to say the least. Yeah, Hal Mukiele didn't get any DEFCON points, and to make things worse, Alderete scored the winning goal. And I did mention Alderete actually in some of my podcasts. You could easily go for any of them, Rodon and Goodmanson. I don't think there's much between all of those in the long term. Sold Thiago for Haaland and triple captain. Josh, did you talk about this on Twitter? Because someone said the exact same thing, and I was like, oh, really? And that was at the point that Haaland had no goal contributions, not even the assist. So, yeah, it's a good thing Haaland paid off the faith in the end, and with the triple captaincy, that would probably secure a green arrow in many scenarios. For me, it was the difference maker, and it should be a green by the end of the week, but let's not count the chickens just yet. Bloody hell. Is this the highest triple captaincy points you've gotten? No. I triple captain Haaland last year, and he got 17 points against Ipswich Town. So the hat-trick against Ipswich in Game Week 2 it was. So this is my second highest triple captaincy score. That might not even be true, though. I believe I triple captain Rashford in the double game week, and he gave me 20 points. I need to double check, but yeah, this would be my third highest triple captaincy score. So with this chip, I've got more luck than I do with the bench boost, for example, and maybe other boosters or 50-50 calls. Zelda and Mario, great name, and nice games as well. On 71 and wildcarding for Game Week 7. Yeah, I have to say, especially after Bruno missed the penalty, I was just thinking, should I just wildcard now and get it over with? I won't discount it, it's a possibility, but yeah, Game Week 8 might be the best one because you've got the international break, more information, and that could be very helpful as well. You've also got fixture swings too, but obviously Arsenal have one against West Ham, arguably that will be much tougher now with Nuno Espirito Santo being appointed. That was official, all sealed and confirmed throughout my deadline stream earlier today. Things move very quickly in the world of football. Austin Kumar says, well played on the triple captaincy, Dylan. Hope you get the Spurs clean sheet as well. Well, Borro's benched, so I hope they don't get the clean sheet. I hope they lose and Borro stays on the bench, but that's not happening. Borro's going to come on for a one-pointer, in my opinion. I appreciate it. I mean, it's one of the few decisions I've gotten right this season, but it's also a very simple one. And there was still an element of luck to it, even though it was a good decision on paper. And, you know, Haaland against Burnley makes sense. It still took a few late goals to make that worthwhile. Grandpa70 says, already transferred Bruno out. No more United players. Not a bad policy to have. I still think Fernandes is a good FPL asset, but the penalty misses against Fulham and Brentford, yeah, I'm not even sure why he doesn't stick consistently with that sort of bunny hop, or maybe it's not called a bunny hop, that sort of hop penalty technique he used to do, where he scored so often from the penalty spot. But yeah, Bruno Fernandes will still do quite well. It wouldn't surprise me if he hauled against Sunderland, but yeah, I'm certainly not really feeling it. On the wild card, I'd certainly be considering offloading him for an Ismaila Sarr and then investing the money elsewhere. And Phil Foden is still an option for me, even though he also blanked with a one-pointer after that booking. Way Too Dizzy says, I pray I'll have a better opportunity to play the triple captaincy. I regret not playing it. Well, for those that wildcarded or bench boosted this week, it makes sense because you can't play two boosters at the same time. So you can't, you know, kick yourself too much about it. But I've said this for the last couple of weeks now. For me, he is the best triple captaincy option for the first half of the season. There will be someone who outscores him, but in order to kind of pick it and get it spot on, the chances will be lower. With this one, it was almost a guarantee of goals. His record against Burnley is brilliant. Man City have now won 11 consecutive games against the Clarets. So yeah, in the end, it was a good decision, logical, but also with some fortune involved, like I mentioned before. Lucas says, went triple captain Haaland and now on wildcard. Happy I didn't go wildcard like almost every creator, and therefore the followers did as well. Well, I can't speak for the others. I haven't seen what other people have been doing, but it's no surprise to me that a lot of people are wildcarding this week, and I just looked at it from the beginning, if you see my team selection and stuff, and I thought, my team doesn't look that bad. It's quite competitive compared to a wildcard this week, and one of the main kind of benefits of wildcarding now is to get 2 or 3 Arsenal players, but they're facing Newcastle away. We'll see how they do tomorrow, and that could obviously change things a little bit, but yeah, I'd rather wildcard it in 7 or 8, and I've always talked about 8 as my sort of preference. Gunnar says, Dear Dylan, play Caicedo and Pedro against Liverpool or Calvert-Lewin and Stack against Tottenham. Well, Dominic Calvert-Lewin did Dominic Calvert-Lewin things, missing multiple big chances. He should have scored today against Bournemouth. Stack had a poor performance as well. It was Longstaff who stole the show in that Leeds midfield. I would start Caicedo because he can get DEFCON. He didn't get it today, though, if I'm not mistaken. And I did have him in FPL Challenge, actually. But yeah, Caicedo should get DEFCON against Liverpool. Anything else is a bonus. João Pedro is always a decent choice, even up against the Premier League champions, who conceded 7 big chances today. If they defend that way against Chelsea, they will concede goals and chances. But yeah, I think Crystal Palace are currently one of the best teams in the Premier League, to be fair. But yeah, difficult one to say. I would favour Tottenham to win that game as well, but it is at Ellen Road. That will be very helpful in their quest to get a victory against Tottenham. So I wouldn't discount Calvert-Lewin and Stack, but my preference is still with the Chelsea players, especially Caicedo. Alan Zared says, I'm gutted. I was switching between triple Haaland and back, but had a gut feeling he would blank. Well, you were so close to being right. And even if he only got the assist, you know, you would have probably thought, you know what, I've done really well there to, you know, resist the temptation to triple captain him. So I'm not going to gloat here and say, oh, it's, you know, the right thing, you know, it's the best call to do. And ultimately, those that didn't triple captain him made the wrong decision, because it still took some luck at the end for things to swing the other way. You need it in FPL to go your way to get the points on board. And that's why fantasy games take more skill. Sorry, I wish they take more luck than skill. I talked about the percentages earlier in the deadline stream. It's debatable. I'd say 70% luck, 30% skill. If that, it might even be with more luck involved. Yeah, I did think about this when Fernandes missed a penalty. I still think he'll be on penalties, but you've got Brian Mbeumo and Cunha, who, let's not forget, also missed crucial penalties against Grimsby Town. But yeah, Fernandes should still be on them. I'm not sure why he's kind of changed his technique from before. It's quite baffling to me. Prashant says, took a -16, Haaland in, triple captain, 61 points, 4 players remaining. Yeah, good score. Minus 16 is quite a lot. I took a -4 for Bruno, so I'm a little bit of a fool there. But yeah, 4 players left. If you've got an Arsenal player in there, maybe Ollie Watkins, I'm really bullish on him, especially after that Chris Wood blank. I'm convinced that Watkins is going to score tomorrow. I'm just going to brace myself. I said that earlier in my deadline stream, and in hindsight, I wish I went for something a little bit different and kept Ollie Watkins for one more week, but he would be a sell anyway in a couple of match days' time. Wolves playing well so far. Spurs are all over the place. Well, look, Spurs also have the Champions League in midweek. Wolves have built upon a bit of momentum after that midweek game against Everton. That was crucial. And I haven't had a proper look at Wolves' lineup, but it does seem like they're going for that 4-2-3-1 formation again. It's very rare to see Wolves with a back four. Even with previous managers, they keep on playing a back three. So they might have stumbled upon a winning formula, so to speak, just in time to play Tottenham Hotspur. In terms of the starting 11, I think I've gotten 7 right. So yeah, with Wolves, that's the team I've done the worst in when it comes to predicting their starting 11. But it should be more fixed now, especially if they get a positive result tonight and they can build upon this same formation and set of players. But it does look much better now. They've got some good players, and especially in the attack, so they should be doing much better than they are right now in the Premier League. So yeah, it'd be brilliant if they get a result tonight. They are also Tottenham Hotspur's bogey team, but I still think Spurs will have enough quality to win this game. Do you think Bruno will be deleted? Yeah, no, I still think he'll be on penalties, but look, it shouldn't be a surprise, right, if Mbeumo takes the next one or Cunha. But like I said, they both missed a crucial penalty against Grimsby Town as well. Aki Code says, I have the exact same number of transfers as you. I was worried when I see the number one not even used, not even one of their transfers. Yeah, but it's early days, right? And sometimes not making a move is the best thing to do in FPL. It's quite rare, but I have found it to be the case from time to time, and that's why I try to be patient when possible. But yeah, I have made 7 transfers this season. I've taken a few hits, so maybe I'm not the most patient man in the world, but there was once upon a time before I made content where I was just taking hits for fun. I would even take a -20 in a week, and sometimes it'd pay off, and sometimes it would lead to a 40-point swing against me. So I did learn from those sorts of things, and ultimately I was just playing for absolute fun back then. Nowadays, it's just misery. Genius Gamer says fullbacks have been woeful this season. Yes, DEFCON has been a nice, introduction to the game. It makes centre backs and DMs like Caicedo more viable, but conversely, the fullbacks have been quite disappointing so far this season. Yeah, Lee Omar, successful triple captain Haaland. Of course, I did slightly better last season, not to gloat too much, in Gameweek 2 against Ipswich Town, but I'll take it. With the way this was going, this might have been even more satisfying, because in Gameweek 2 last season, he had that early goal from the get-go. I think Ipswich Town might have taken the lead, and then Haaland went on a mad one. But yeah, this time round is a different circumstance, and I'm happy I got the points this time. Transfer out Cucurella for Gabriel or Senesi. Long-term Gabriel is the better pick, but Senesi is a DEFCON machine, and he's cheaper, decent fixtures. He's got a few assists in him. This one, of course, for the equaliser, and it was from a set piece. On a wildcard, I'd go for both of them. Had Nunes, Haaland happy with that Man City game? Yeah, I do regret it now, because someone did ask me about Matheus Nunes and Bernardo Silva, and my initial reaction was to recommend Matheus Nunes, and he was in my predicted lineup, but I had more doubts about Nunes starting than Bernardo Silva. And ultimately, Bernardo Silva was the one who didn't start. I got 10 out of 11 right with my Man City predicted lineup. But yeah, Nunes isn't really a good long-term option, but he did the business today. That's the most important thing. What are your thoughts on Cullen for Burnley? The best Burnley midfielder is Jadon Anthony, who went up to 5.6 million. Cullen did get a big return a couple of weeks ago, but yeah, if you want a Burnley attacker, it's going to be Jadon Anthony. Lau Foster as a third forward if you want to save some money there. Otherwise, I'd ignore the rest of those Burnley midfielders and attackers. I personally think Amrim is about to be sacked. I said this before, by the way, in the deadline stream, and obviously it doesn't take a genius to say that, but I just looked at all the Premier League managers, and I thought, yeah, I think Amrim's the most likely. He got that win against Chelsea, but they were down to 10 men. Obviously, that result today was disastrous for Man United, and Sunderland could go there and win. They really could. I'll probably still predict a United wing being foolish or looking at the past too much. Yeah, I think they have a real chance there. If Sunderland get a win, I think Amram's sacked during the international break. Going to enjoy Watkins' goal so much. Hopefully it's just, hopefully he blanks and gets a 1-pointer or misses a penalty, but yeah, it's not going to happen, is it? I think Watkins will probably score a goal, get some bonus points. That's my prediction for Watkins. If it's more than that, I'll probably be fuming. 90k overall rank, 78 points. Yeah, great rank, good score, triple captain success. Really good. Well, Dryhill, I went from Consa from the beginning. It's not like I would pick Consa now. This is not my wildcard team. So, yeah, if it was a wildcard team, it would look a little bit different. Let's put it that way. Sanchez wouldn't be there. Consa, Borro would not be there at all. Chris would as well. The rest isn't too bad. Obviously, Renilo's suspended. He would be offloaded as well. Gakpo potentially, another one. But, yeah, I think the others are decent still. Even Bruno Fernandes. Well, Adam, fine. There is Gameweek 13 and 15. So Erling Haaland plays Leeds United and Sunderland at home. Now, the way you look at it, I think Sunderland might not be as good of a triple captaincy opportunity as it seemed to be during pre-season. But yeah, you've got Cole Palmer if he's available in Gameweek 9 against Sunderland. You've got Gyökeres facing Burnley in Gameweek 10. But my favourite would probably be Salah against one of those newly promoted clubs like Leeds in a couple of weeks' time. So that's probably around Gameweek 13-15. If not, go for Erling Haaland. That is my recommendation at this point. But I did talk about this in some of my recent videos where I showed the chip strategy slides. My main concern about Gameweek 13 and 15 now is rotation, because you've got a very packed schedule around December. You've got a lot of games coming up, the Carabao Cup, the Champions League, and for other teams it'll be the other European competitions. And that's where the likes of Haaland and Salah could be rested actually, or at least have reduced minutes. That's why I was quite keen on Haaland here. 90-minute man, great record against Burnley, no risk of rotation, and in the end, we still needed luck to pull through, really. I just bought Bruno Fernandes, mate, and it was to fund Erling Haaland. My alternative was Foden. I only lost out on 2 points, thankfully. It could have been much worse than that. There is still Sunderland next week. We'll see how Bruno Fernandes gets on. He's fixture-proof. He scored against Liverpool last season, although I don't expect him to do so this time round. And with a new manager, by the way, I think Fernandes could be a really good player. I think he thrives playing as the attacking midfielder, especially in a 4-2-3-1 formation. So maybe a change of system and manager could actually be good for Bruno Fernandes. So yeah, I think that will be the case in a couple of weeks' time. So that will be my hope. By that time, I might wildcard though, and then Bruno hauls, and I complain. It's the cycle of life, the cycle of FPL. Austin says, was not expecting Rodon to score big. Sadly, is on my bench on the third sub spot as well. Yeah, with these centre-backs, especially with DEFCON, you can always get this kind of random return. But in his case, of course, scoring the goal to equalise at the time. Yeah, Rodon won't score many this season, but he has a bit of set-piece threat, and Leeds fans do love him. And they said from the beginning he's not going to get benched for their new signing Biol. They were correct. And Rodon is also decent for DEFCON, so not a bad pickup at 4 million. Chelsea having 4 defenders out isn't great for Sanchez. That is true. And they face Liverpool next. I think Liverpool will bounce back and get a victory here, but yeah, we'll see how my predictions age and whether I change my mind, because a lot depends as well on what happens in midweek and other injuries and stuff like that. But yeah, no Chalobah. Levi Cole was injured. Yeah, it's not looking good for Chelsea right now. Man City are finished, says 64 with Borro, Kudus, Anderson, Dewsbury Hall left to play. Yeah, Borro, you're looking at a 1-pointer. I still think Kudus will do well. Yeah, Dewsbury Hall was also decent. Joachim Anderson could get DEFCON, but otherwise I wouldn't expect too much. So yeah, I'm trying to have a look at the game at the same time, but I have to say it's quite difficult to get both of them in there. But yeah, Richarlison, no, it was Kudus actually, almost scored. A great save onto the crossbar by Johnston. So one of the few things I did get right with my predicted lineups for Wolves was Johnston starting. And after that performance in midweek, I think he had to. So yeah, big save from Johnston just now. It might have been a few minutes ago for you. Mostly disappointed I was with no clean sheet. Donnarumma and Caicedo without 12 DEFCONs. Yeah, a rare thing for Moises Caicedo. I went from an FPL challenge, but well, that's 2 games out of 6 without DEFCON. In UCL Fantasy, I was quite surprised actually to see Caicedo with only 4 ball recoveries, but I think we'll get more in the coming match days. Obviously, he considered a penalty there as well, but yeah, Caicedo's still a good pickup in the midfield. I prefer him over Stack. I said that in my deadline stream earlier. Big hope in Van der Ven and Everton assets. I don't really blame you, but with West Ham having Nuno Espirito Santo, who could be in charge for that game on Monday, I'd be less keen on Everton, and it could be a draw now. That could be one of my changes to my scoreline predictions. I did go for 2-1 Everton originally, with the assumption that Graham Potter was the manager, it could be different now. Yeah, I think Kudus, I backed him to score today and to get a good return, so it's still possible. It really is. Who is the second best midfielder? Well, I said Semenyo's the best, right? I mean, could I say Salah is the second best right now? He's not worth 14.5 million to be fair, but yeah, that's where things get a bit difficult, and a reason why I bought Bruno Fernandes, and it hasn't gone well at the moment. But Jadon Anthony is the second highest scoring midfielder, so I'm not saying he's the one to go for. Yeah, Semenyo, and the other midfielder I'd recommend is probably Saka now. Especially on the wildcard in 7 or 8. Yeah, probably Saka. Yeah, Wei Seng, I was looking to do tomorrow, but I found it better to do it today. And also, I can record UCL Fantasy content tomorrow and on Monday with more information. I thought that was so crucial for the Champions League to provide the best coverage possible. So I made that decision. And here I am. I watched a few games live and ultimately a few of them on the highlights. And I'm trying to catch as much of the Spurs game as possible. But you lot will probably update me if there is a goal. And I do expect the home side to score very soon. So yeah, next best chance for triple captaincy, in my opinion, would be Gameweek 13. And I'll show you the slides very briefly, actually, and then also show you a few other things here and there, like the FDR. So this is a breakdown of some of the things I talked about in my chip strategy video, and I update the graphics to, be up to date, so to speak. Obviously, I highlight Gameweek 6 as the best triple captaincy opportunity. That is now passed for people, but I do highlight alternative weeks to play that chip as well. So you can also see a breakdown of every single booster, how it works, things to look out for, and possible times to play it, not just for the first half of the season, but also the second, which will be very template, to say the least. So what I kind of highlighted for the first half of the campaign between Game Weeks 1 to 19 was the triple captain in 6, and I went for Erling Haaland. Wildcard in 8, for some people it might be Game Week 13 instead. With the free hit, this is team dependent, and to be fair, every single booster will be team dependent, but especially with this chip and the bench boost. Now, one thing I'll probably have to correct here is to change the bench boost from Game Week 16. One kind of reasoning to say that sort of Game Week is because you can have 5 free transfers because of AFCON, and with that, you can literally just bolster your squad. If for those wildcarding in 13, for example, you can still bench boost in 16 with 5 free transfers and then take money out of your bench and then put it back into 11, do stuff like that. But I think it's probably better to bench boost in Game Week 14 for those that wildcard in 13, and even a Game Week 8 or 9 bench boost looks better than 16. My advice is to get rid of it as soon as possible. So that's one thing I would change with the bench boost in particular. With the others, I'm quite set. Obviously, the triple captaincy for the first half of the season is done and dusted for me. So I'm going to quickly rectify this live. Hopefully I can do that. And yeah, make sure that the bench boost is modified, because I think 60 might be a bit too late. It can still do well, and there's not one formula or strategy that will work for everyone, but yeah, I think using it earlier is the best thing to do with the bench boost. So let's see if I can get this up. Okay, so yeah, bench boost, I'm going to say Game Week 9 probably as an option with this strategy of wildcarding in 8, which is what I recommend. Okay, and then we're gonna, hopefully this will update on screen in a couple of seconds. But I will let this play out as well. So for the second half of the season, I do talk about the Game Week 32 wildcard, bench boosting in double Game Week 33, using the free hit in blank Game Week 34, and the triple captain in double Game Week 36, but that's dependent on which Game Week ends up being the bigger double. So if it's the other way around, and let's say the Game Week 36 double is bigger, then I would bench boost there if possible. Then you wildcard a little bit later in 35 for the second half of the season. Use the free hit in either blank Game Week 31 or 34, and triple captain potentially in 33 as an alternative strategy. But that's going to be very template. With the first half of the season, it's up in the air. A lot of different strategies flying around, of course. You can triple captain in 13 or 15. Those are the next kind of major weeks for me. But even someone like Gyökeres in Game Week 10 against Burnley or Saka could be very appealing. The wild card in 7 or 12, or sorry, in 7 or 13 are the main alternatives to 8. But I have to say Gameweek 8 is my favorite. With the bench boost, I have to say as well, Gameweek 9, probably better than 16 as well. So yeah, I'm looking at a potential Gameweek 9 bench boost for me. With a free hit, Gameweek 13 or 15 also look viable. My preference at the moment is Gameweek 11 though. So that'll be discussed in a couple of weeks' time as well as things get ironed out. But I've got a clearer idea now with the triple captaincy out of the way. And I think once I determine when I'm wildcarding for sure, and Gameweek 8 is the most likely, that will then cause a domino effect, and I'll know when I play the other chips as well. So hopefully this has been very useful to you, and what I'm going to do very quickly is go to the FDR. We have a new leader here in Arsenal who are top between Gameweek 7 to 12. Wolves, Chelsea, Brighton and West Ham, with their new manager Nuno Espirito Santo at the helm, they complete the top 5. In terms of the bottom set of teams, there is Brentford, Liverpool, Man City, Nottingham Forest, and Bournemouth. And remember in the deadline stream earlier, Forest were top of the FDR, with Sunderland being a big part of that. Now they're down in 17th. With predicted points at the moment, Haaland is top facing Brentford away. Watkins is second. Fernandes, Saka and Semenyo are in the top 5. Salah, Mbumo, Cunha, Gyökeres and Gabriel are in the top 10. But I think some of this will be adjusted. I wouldn't have that many Arsenal players in the top 10 facing a West Ham side with good players like Bowen and with a new manager in Nuno Espirito Santo. They should be better from set pieces as well, so Arsenal might struggle in that game next week. With price changes, Erling Haaland will go up in price. It surely has to happen. The likes of Gay, who got the winning assist against Liverpool, Semenyo, Gabriel, Isak, Caicedo, Isidore, Van der Ven, Senesi, Rodon, could all go up in price. With the latter two, probably not, at least for today. But I have to say the Gameweek 7 wildcard is a real possibility for me, and someone like Senesi has to come in. If we look at the projected price falls, we do have a few interesting names in here, like Cucurella, Aina, Tosin Adarabioyo, Yeremy Pino, Sells. We also have Diarra, Jacob Murphy, Mateta, Daniel Marlin, and Palmer. But not all of these will happen. Ait Nuri, Ben White, Asnu, Lewis Hall, Ndoye, Nonto, Daniel James Verbruggen, Raul Jimenez, Harry Wilson. They've been projected to fall for a couple of days now. They're also saying Fleming and Marco Bizot. And also, yeah, Wolf, the left wing back from Wolves, who isn't starting once again. Let's take a look at the stats comparison of two of the best assets in the game, but there is a clear victor right now. Erling Haaland has 8 goals and 1 assist to Salah's 2 goals and 2 assists. A very poor showing from the Egyptian so far this season. Only 10 shots overall, 9 inside the box, whilst Erling Haaland has 28 shots in total, 13 of them on target, which is over double of Salah's. The XG as well is incredible, 7.37, and Salah's is only 1.71. He missed a big chance today, but only 2 for the season, and Erling Haaland has 13 already, which is absolutely bonkers. Even with big chances created, they both have 3. So only in terms of some creativity stats like XA and key passes, Salah leads in those metrics, but for everything else, Erling Haaland is absolutely smashing it at the moment, and he's a great option for UCL Fantasy as well, which I'll discuss very soon in my best limitless and wildcard team videos. Let's have a look quickly at FPL.team, and I've currently got this sort of setup going into Gameweek 7. Robert Sanchez in goal facing Liverpool at home, and Dubravka facing Aston Villa is the alternative. I might even go in that direction. Pedro Porro away to Leeds, Konsa at home to Burnley, and Gabriel facing West Ham at home. Bruno Fernandes against Sunderland, Reinders and Haaland facing Brentford away, Semenyo against Fulham at home, Ndiaye facing Crystal Palace, another home fixture, Chris Wood against Newcastle away, and Joao Pedro also facing Liverpool at home. I've got Gakpo and Lacroix on the bench, but one possibility here without making a transfer is to start Lacroix over Chris Wood and going for this sort of setup, but it does mean a conflict between Ndiaye and Lacroix in my starting 11. I would captain Erling Haaland. The vice captaincy would probably be on Semenyo, who is the most consistent midfielder so far this season. And yeah, Bruno Fernandes, unless he gets a dodgy penalty and actually scores it, I'm not going to captain him anytime soon. So that goes in terms of my initial transfer plans and team selection for Gameweek 7, but keep your eyes peeled for a couple of days' time because surely things will happen in midweek with Europe and the Champions League. So I could make some changes to my transfer plans. So FPL Challenge, at least I got the captaincy right in this game as well. And very soon when they add the bonus points, Erling Haaland will deliver 32 points in general, 16 points as his base score. So that'll take my total to 38 points in FPL Challenge. Caicedo blanked, but because he's aged 23 and under, he scored double points for that. So I'll take that 4-pointer. Salah blanked. I've got Richarlison, Tarkowski, and Pope now. Pope is really there to jinx, to be quite honest with you. And yeah, with Richarlison's 1 point at the moment, that does take my total to 39. But yeah, that'll be updated once the game has finished. Lager says, I'm thinking of a bench boost game week 7 now and perhaps wildcard in 8. I would consider that if I actually had... Well, I mean, I could bolster my defensive line and sell Renildo. I would have to reconsider it, but yeah, I don't really have enough money in the bank to make that sort of upgrade I'm looking for. But for some people, it will be viable, and getting rid of it as soon as possible might be a good strategy, actually. Sunderland are a point off equaling Southampton's points tally last season. That's incredible. I mean, Southampton were terrible last season. They almost set an all-time low in terms of Derby County's 13-pointer in a Premier League season. But yeah, Sunderland have been smashing it as well. Yeah, I mentioned this a few times, Sama. My current plan is to wildcard in 8, but for everyone it's going to be a bit different. For some people, it might make sense to wildcard now in 7. I just think 8 is a little bit better because you've got the international break as well and another week's worth of information. I also think you've got a few fixture swings around Game Week 8 too, and West Ham at home might not be as easy for Arsenal now as you would have thought a couple of days ago. Game Week 13 wildcard is also viable. That was all covered in my chip strategy sort of segment a couple of minutes ago. Selling Bumo? Probably not. I know Sunderland have been good, and I think a lot of people now in this live chat will fancy them to get a result at Old Trafford, but I don't think I'd sell in Bumo. Weising says 66 points so far, triple captain success, but Gakpo, Goodmanson, JP all blanked. Yeah, JP's a bit surprising. With the other two, not a massive shock that they blanked, especially with Gakpo being benched, which I talked about as a possibility. Joe Hanking says, so happy I finally had a mega haul from a triple captain. Haaland and Semenyo have carried my team this week. Same here. If it wasn't for them, I would be in the absolute bin FPL-wise. Feel like Chris Wood needs to go now. I'm thinking to move him on for Gyökeres or Mateta. Yeah, they're both upgrades. There's no doubt about that. Mateta should have hauled today. He missed 2 big chances. A bit unlucky with one effort that was so close in the first half, I believe, but Alisson also made some big saves as well for Liverpool and kept them in it. I think long-term Gyökeres is the better pick, but West Ham will not be easy. Yeah, triple captaining Foden or Bruno Fernandes. I've seen them flying around on Twitter. Yikes. Liverpool messed me up. Took a punt on Isak. Also got Van Dijk and Gravenberch. Yeah, Gravenberch had a good shot saved by Dean Henderson in the first half. Van Dijk is always a good asset. I think he's the best Liverpool player right now in FPL. Alexander Isak had a few big chances. He should have buried one of them. I think with one towards the end of the game, he lost his balance. Otherwise, that was a sure goal. His record against Palace is quite poor. So initially, I put him in my top 10 captaincy options in my team selection video, I believe. If not my best free hit squad. Then I rectified it and I removed him completely from the top 10. I'm glad I did it, even though he was going to get the start with Ekitike suspended, and that proved to be a costly suspension for Liverpool in the end. Josh says, I don't talk about it on Twitter, but it was either him or Wood who I would have sold. There are usually lots of goals at the G-Tech Stadium, but from what I remember, I think what did it was his fixtures. Yeah, his fixtures are much worse on paper, and that's why sometimes you can't look too much into the fixtures. You need to find that balance, but I'm not going to blame you for that, mate. I mean, no one expected Igor Thiago, as bad as United are, to score a brace inside 20 minutes. I mean, that just, it's ridiculous. But at least you got Erling Haaland as your triple captain. That makes up for it a little bit, but it's kind of a question of what could have been if you had sold Chris Wood instead, right? But yeah, he's going to be a very popular sell now. He'll go down in price to 7.4 very soon. Cucurella, Bruno and Wood all sold. Yeah, I don't really blame you to rage transfer them out, but there are Champions League games in midweek. Just be very wary about that. Over the last 2 game weeks, though, I've made early transfers, so I'm not going to preach, oh, don't make early transfers. You're going to get punished because, you know, you can be, but ultimately, I understand why people do it. I'm not saying you should never, ever do it. I just prefer having more information when possible, but sometimes you just want to improve your team as soon as possible and kind of get that headache out of the way. Makis says Watkins and Bruno out to Haaland stack benched to triple captain Haaland, and keep Salah feels great after Bruno's -1. Yeah, and Salah will still do well. It's just he's not worth 14.5 million. So in a couple of weeks' time, you might feel, you know what, I'm going to sell him anyway to a Saka or Palmer and then distribute the funds elsewhere. So that is still open to you. Lima FPL says Donnarumma versus Pope for the next week. Well, I think Brentford could score against City, but then again, I thought they'd keep a clean sheet today against Burnley, and it wasn't the case. Nick Pope is a very solid option, actually. I do like Newcastle defensively this season, and for UCL Fantasy, I was considering going for a Newcastle defender, actually. So that was a real possibility for me. And by the way, very soon I'm going to read out the bonus points, just for those that are unaware. Yeah, for next week, I'd probably go for Livramento, considering Forest's form. Yeah. They look very impressive, by the way, in Europa League, creating 6 big chances against Betis, or Real Betis, in the first half. And yet, they struggled to create against Sunderland today. The corner Palace got for the first goal was BS, just saying. Yeah, I hear that, but then you could argue about Chiesa's equalising goal as well, right? Ultimately, Palace deserved the win. Liverpool were the better team in the second half, but they could have been down by 2 or 3 goals in the first 45 minutes. Joe Hankin says, you think it's worth bringing in Gabriel tonight? Well, over the last couple of days, livefpl.net keeps saying he's going to go up in price. I'm waiting. I updated the graphics to reflect the price change, and he doesn't go up, but it should happen now. The reason why we're seeing like a lot of stagnant transfer activity is because wildcards are being activated, so that means the algorithm won't be completely reliable in weeks like this. But yeah, Gabriel's worth it, for sure. Harry SM says bench Gay for Bruno, but triple captain Haaland. Yeah, Haaland's getting 3 bonus points. I'm going to read out those bonus now. So yeah, that late goal by Haaland was crucial, to say the least. So for the Brentford-Man United game, the BPS have been allocated to Igor Thiago with maximum. Benjamin Sesko technically beat the 007 allegations for Man United. He gets 2 bonus. And Jordan Henderson gets 1 with that assist. In the Brighton-Chelsea game, Danny Welbeck gets maximum bonus points. Enzo Fernandez gets 2. And De Kuiper gets a bonus as well. The Crystal Palace 2, Liverpool 1. The BPS have been allocated to Ismail Assar and Gravenberch. They both get 3. And obviously Gravenberch got the assist. I talked about skipping him last week. I still hold, my hands up there, and I stand by that. But in comparison to Zubimendi, for example, I think Gravenberch is a better FPL asset for sure. But Caicedo would still be the one at a similar price. Some people would say stack, which is still reasonable with their fixtures. And there is Rangers as well. But yeah, Gravenberch and Sarr with 3. Szoboszlai gets 2. And I think that is pretty much how the BPS will be allocated in that Liverpool Palace game. Nketiah might sneak into the bonus points. He's got 25 in the bonus point system. For Leeds 2, Bournemouth 2. Congratulations to Senesi owners. You are enjoying a lot of points here. Krupi Jr. Does get 2 BPS. Senesi gets 1. And Sean Longstaff gets maximum bonus with a goal and assist. With Man City Burnley, Erling Haaland gets 3 BPS, or I'll just say bonus points. Doku gets 2, courtesy of 2 fantasy assists. And Jadon Anthony gets... No, sorry, it's Matheus Nunes who gets 1. Anthony was very close, though. Those late goals would have harmed him in the bonus point system. And for the last game that's concluded in Game Week 6... Alderete gets maximum bonus points with his winning goal. Rufs gets 2. And Granit Xhaka, who provided the assist, he gets 1 bonus point against Nottingham Forest, who are winless under Ange Postecoglou. So the Tottenham Wolves game, it's about to reach half-time. It's still 0-0. That would be a very frustrating result for Spurs, but I still think they'll score in the second half. My prediction was 2-0 for the Lily Whites. Drop a like on this video, subscribe, all that good stuff. Like I said, there will be more FPL and UCL fantasy content over the coming days, so keep your eyes peeled for that. And I greatly appreciate the support. I know there's a game going on now, but like I said, I think the priority from tomorrow is UCL fantasy, and I wanted more information when it comes to the Champions League. Top 3 defenders for Game Week 7. I'd still put Gabriel's name in there, but he's less appealing now with a new manager at West Ham. So Gabriel, Livramento would spring to mind. As good as Van Dijk is, I don't think I'd recommend him against Chelsea. I think the Blues could still score. Yeah, Palace-Everton's a tough game to predict as well. I mean, for those who are bold enough, why not a Mukiele or Alderete against Man United? But yeah, I'm going to say Gabriel, Livramento, and after that, it gets very tough in terms of the third defender. Do I say Konsa or a Villa option against Burnley? Probably not, to be fair. Yeah, I think in terms of defenders next week, there aren't many standouts, and that's why I'm quite happy to, keep what I've got. I've got Lacroix currently on the bench. I've also got Konsa facing Burnley, Border away to Leeds, and he should start that game. He could be a decent choice. But I'd say Newcastle and Arsenal defenders stand out in particular. And Marcus Senesi, why not? He's been so good this season. So felt like Cunha won't find success at United. He should join another club. He did start quite well, though, in terms of performances. The injury hasn't helped, of course. But he's another one who could be nearing 007, as people love to say. But yeah, it's early to judge. And also, a new manager could change things. And the formation, I mean, Cunha's more used to it than the others. It just doesn't work for Man United. It simply doesn't. Riche says, got 16 points from 6 players, season over. I feel you. It can feel that way, I've had that in Game Week 3 and 5 already this season. Massive rank drops. In a week like this, where a lot of people triple captain Haaland or wild-carded and are getting 50, 60 points, it can feel like a massive blow. But look, you've got 5 players left. If you've got a captaincy option as well remaining, then that would be 6 players left in essence if you check websites like livefpl.net. So there is still hope, but yeah, it's not looking good at the moment. Hopefully you turn your fortunes around very soon. Mohammed says, should I sell Gakpo or Salah? I'm happy with triple captain Haaland, best player in the game. Yeah, this season he is. He was a massive disappointment in the last campaign. Luckily for me, I kind of got off at a decent time. I think I sold Haaland in Game Week 10, but because I triple captained him in 2, I gave him a lot of credit in the bank, and he did the business for me. He's a very good starter. Every single season he's on fire in August and September. This is his worst start to the season, isn't it? Something like that. 8 goals in 6 games. It's unbelievable. And also a goal in the Champions League against a decent Napoli side. Thank you, Secondary. I appreciate it. But yeah, to answer this question by Mohammed, who to sell? Well, Gakpo is... I'm sorry. Gakpo is more prone to rotation. But Salah's not worth 14.5 million. My long-term suggestion is maybe to go without either. So maybe you go for Saka or Palmer in the midfield. Obviously not Palmer now. That would be a Game Week 9 or 10 sort of punt, but probably Salah if I had to pick one of them. There is also a question of who do you go for in terms of the rest of your midfield and 50-man squad. How does it differ if you've got Salah or Gakpo? But Salah's definitely the better pick between the two. Tom Mills says, my team is looking okay-ish as long as I carry on making adjustments, and with transfers being bumped up to 5 in Game Week 16. Would it be madness to say my wildcard to Game Week 18 or 19? Not necessarily. If you feel like you're in a good position, you don't need to wildcard, and it would be more useful around that time, then it could be a different strategy that works for you, and it could also allow you to wildcard much later, whilst people have 5s to put out, which might force them to wildcard around Game Week 25, to name one particular game week. You could save it for Game Week 32 or Game Week 35 for a late bench boost. So yeah, I think that could be viable. I'm not against alternative strategies like that. I'm just kind of giving my ideas on what I'm looking to do myself and some alternative strategies for every single booster. But yeah, I think that looks pretty good, actually. El Hassan says, use triple captain on the robot, hit 70 points so far and up to 260 in the world. Yeah, come on, mate. If you're up to, that sort of rank, 200, 1000, it's a great rank. So even if it's Game Week 6 or 7, if it's Game Week 1, obviously it's early days, but it's a great rank to be in. 5 goals but no involvement from Reinders. Thoughts? Not too surprised. I benched him last week against Arsenal, the best defence in the league, and he gets 9 points, but that's the nature of FPL. I saw some City fans kind of question Reinders even starting the game, saying that he won't be that useful against Burnley's low block, and maybe they were right, but Rangers will still get some big returns against weaker opposition, but I think he'll be more difficult to predict when it comes to returns. So he's probably more of a starter and just kind of hope he gets those returns, but his consistency won't be there. I told people this after he hauled against Arsenal. I prefer Caicedo because he guarantees you 4 or 5 points, whilst Reinders will give you 2 pointers, maybe on many occasions, and the odd double-digit haul here and there. Virgil, Goodmanson, Munoz, this game is too difficult. So yeah, 0, 1 and 2 points. Munoz should have scored as well. He was quite unlucky not to get the goal, but Alisson made a great save. Fulkrug is going to be the next Wood under Nuno, isn't he? It's definitely possible. In terms of profile, he's the most similar at West Ham, so I wouldn't rule it out. I don't think he'll score 2 goals, by the way. 2 goals. I don't think he'll score 20 goals in the Premier League in a season, but maybe over 10. It all depends on his fitness. Well, Chalobah's only missing 1 game. It's the same punishment, the same scenario as Robert Sanchez. Last man professional foul. It's not foul play, so it's a 1-game ban. He'll be back for Game Week 8. These obviously carry over to the cup competitions, but in the case of Sanchez, there was the Lincoln game in midweek. That's why he could play today. But Chalobah doesn't have that same luxury. So he can play against Benfica in the Champions League. That's a different, entity with UEFA, different competition, so that doesn't count. Chalobah will miss Game Week 7 against Liverpool. RMM says, would you start Anderson, have Semenyo, Paqueta, have double Arsenal defence, or Rodon? Probably Paqueta, actually, if I had to pick one of them. The thing is, Anderson's more likely to give you like 2 or 3 points. Paqueta's got the highest ceiling of the lot, though. United to keep Amrim for the trip to Anfield? I don't think so. If Sunderland get a result, I think Amrim is gone by the international break. Lager says, yes, I've been saying it for a long time myself, actually. Bring back Solskjaer. Look, there was definitely a lot of criticism about Solskjaer. A lot of semi-finals, just couldn't get over the line. He finished second and also got like 4th and stuff like that. But at least you saw, purple patches. You saw good attacking passages of play. And a lot of the players, or the more offensive players, you could see them given, freedom to express themselves and stuff like that. You don't see that with Amrim, and this formation seems very restrictive. He's quite right to say that when they beat Chelsea, no one, mentioned it, but it was also 10-man Chelsea. I know they also got 10 men at some stage, but yeah, I think with United, you're not going to get any consistency from them with this formation and set of players. Thank you, Wes. Dylan, gracias a ti puse a Haaland triple capitán. Sos crack, papá. Saludos. Muchas gracias. Me alegro que con alguien por lo menos está contento con mis consejos, pero es bastante sencillo. Erling Haaland jugando contra Burnley tiene un buen récord contra ellos. Hizo hat-trick hace poco, creo que hace 2 o 3 años atrás, y está en un buen momento. No tienes el riesgo de que vaya al banco o que lo van a sacar muy temprano. Eso es posible en la jornada 13 o 15 para Salah y Haaland, que va a ser otras buenas oportunidades para poner el triple capitán, pero estoy contento con esto y ojalá que podamos crecer y, no sé, mejorar después de este punto. Mansia Finish says, Schlotterbeck and Gay centre-back partnership next season. What, at Liverpool is this? Yeah, Mark Gay will surely leave Palace next year for free. He's a very good centre-back, by the way. Liverpool could do with him. Maybe they'll go back in for him in January, but it's more likely it will happen in the summer for free. Lager says, I am not a United fan, but Solskjaer was so much better overall. I still don't get why he got sacked like he did. Well, these United players, we've seen this pattern over the years with Mourinho and all these different managers. They do basically have this player power, and once it reaches a point of no return, they just play for him to get sacked. And it's happened to many managers. It's going to happen now to Amrim. It's a shame, but yeah, the players ultimately are one huge problem, and the owners is the root with the Glazers, and that's been an issue since Ferguson was there, but obviously he papered over the cracks. I think there were protests as early as 2006, by the way, when United was still a top team in Europe. But yeah, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, I always said to my United friends, he's not the guy to get United over the line. And people might say now to me about Arteta, maybe he's not the one. But yeah, Solskjaer did much better than Amrim. I mean, that's not up for debate right now. The swing, by the way, of Salah and Haaland was brutal. Yeah, it is. And Salah missed a big chance. He should have gotten something, but we have seen the underlying stats this season. They haven't really been good enough from Salah. And I compared the stats of both players only a couple of minutes ago, and Haaland is much better in all of these stats. The XG is almost 7 times better. 13 big chances to Salah's 2. Even big chance created, both of them have 3. So yeah, Kudus had an offside goal, as people mentioned in the chat. I'm just about catching up, but it is half-time between Tottenham and Wolves, and I'll try to catch a bit of the second game as well. But yeah, going to go for a few more questions and comments. Enjoy, the kind of initial reactions. Hopefully you're doing very well in Game Week 6. Thank you, Lager, for the super chat. I appreciate it. Yeah, I didn't answer the last question, sorry. I did answer the first one, though, even though I basically gave 2 out of 3. So I'd say Gabriel and Livramento spring to mind for Game Week 7. I'm not looking to free hit in this game, to be honest. It's not a bad one to do so, but I'm kind of struggling for that sort of third defender, to be quite honest with you. Gabriel, Livramento, and I'm going to say... Wow, that's a difficult one. I was thinking of a Lacroix or Tarkovsky. They are facing each other, and I think both teams could score there. It might even be a case of doubling up on one defence, like Newcastle, with Livramento and, let's say, Burn. That could work fairly well for you. In terms of top 3 forwards, though, yeah, Erling Haaland, yeah, no genius is needed for that one. Gyökeres would be up there for me. I'm just a bit put off by the new appointment of Nuno Espirito Santo. Yeah, I'd avoid Joao Pedro this week against Liverpool. He could still be good, but I'd avoid that. Yeah, I'm going to say Haaland, Gyökeres. It's a good question. And ultimately, this is literally my initial takes and reactions. That's the point of this stream. Yeah, I think the third one... That's such a difficult one. Dare I say Ollie Watkins? Dare I say it? Against Burnley at home? Richarlison still decent against Leeds. I don't mind Evanilson against Fulham, by the way. I think that's pretty good. Could Danny Welbeck build upon the brace today against Wolves? It's possible, but I wouldn't hold my breath. Yeah, it might be unpopular, but I'm going to say Haaland, Gyökeres, and Ollie Watkins, and he's going to score tomorrow. Bookmark this tweet, as they say. Thinking about free it in 7 to get Arsenal players. Not sure if it's worth it. I don't think so now with Nuno being appointed. Maybe I'm looking too much into it, and he's not going to have too much time with his players. It could be similar to the Forest-Arsenal game a couple of weeks ago, in terms of Ange Postecoglou has 1 or 2 training sessions. It should be a little bit more than that, by the way. I think you'll probably have 4 or 5 training sessions and maybe the game on Monday. So, yeah, I just think West Ham will be solid defensively, sit in a low block and try to frustrate Arsenal. Now, the Gunners did beat Forest last season with Nuno at the helm, 3-0 at the Emirates. So, it all depends. If that one goal comes in early, it could unlock the whole team. But, yeah, I'm not sure if it's worth a free hit, to be honest. Yeah, Xavi Simons' yellow card. I believe he got one in UCL Fantasy as well against Villarreal, and he was in my team. Poor little Burnley, says Man City are finished. 42, 5 to play, not bad on the wild card. Yeah, I think that's fairly decent, especially with Erling Haaland going off the way he did. That's pretty decent. We need to talk about Bruno. Yeah, but, I was actually not thinking about him missing the penalty. When I saw him step up for the pen, I was like, okay, I could get a jammy penalty goal from Bruno. This is how it feels like. Let's go, Rio Ferdinand style. And then he misses the penalty. Good by Kelleher. Poor penalty by Bruno Fernandes, to be honest. And I'm not sure why he's kind of changed his technique from a few years ago. Sell Mbeumo for Jadon Anthony? No. Jadon Anthony's been very impressive this season at 5.6 million, but I wouldn't sell Bryan Mbeumo for Jadon Anthony personally. In terms of midfielders that I'd be looking at, Caicedo. I think Reinders is still a good option. Foden. Fernandes is still good, but I get why you might not want to go there. Indai. I think Kudus is a decent short-term punt. He's not someone I'd recommend, though, in the long term. And, of course, Semenyo is the absolute best midfielder in FPL right now. So a lot of these midfielders I talked about in my Wildcard podcast, but I don't think I'd sell Mbeumo for Jadon Anthony. It's a slight possibility, Noel. It's more likely, though, that I'll go for it in Game Week 8. Mario Rodriguez says, hi Dylan, Rodon and Alderete on my bench. Foden and Bruno, 0 points combined. FPLA, who would have bloody thought? That is incredible. Going into this week, I thought Foden, he was 4th on my captaincy list. Bruno Fernandes was 9th, I believe. Yeah, I thought at least one return between both of them. So you're looking at maybe 10 points. Fool. What an absolute fool I am. Bose says, lol, took a -4 for Bruno today. Yeah, same here. But as you say, glad that we bought in Haaland. That's what kind of saved it. Yeah, Pedro Porro's not playing. It's not a huge shock. I talked about this being a possibility in the deadline stream earlier, but I was kind of hoping he got the start today and was benched in the Champions League against Bodo Glimt. He will now start that game in match day 2 and also against Leeds, but he got the rest today with Jed Spence at right back. Ariel Lavender says -3. Chalobah all blanks and accidentally captain Foden over Haaland. Yeah, yeah. Far from ideal. I'm not sure what happened there with the Foden Haaland situation, but yeah, those that maybe triple captain Foden or Bruno Fernandes will be very disappointed this week. Liam Toy says, had a 50-50 decision between Enzo and Dewsbury Hall for my first bench spot. Opted to go Dewsbury Hall and bench Enzo due to the fixture. Well, look, there's still hope. In your case, you don't know what Dewsbury Hall has done because we'll see what happens on Monday. But against Nuno's West Ham, it might be a different story. But yeah, you're just going to have to hope that he gets an assist at least, and that will be fairly decent. But yeah, Enzo Fernandez could have got an even bigger haul against Brighton, by the way. And he's a quality FPL asset still. Palmer and Gakpo sell. Yeah, Palmer should be back after the international break. That's the hope with him, but he has been playing with injections over the last couple of weeks, so it's kind of a situation where I'd want to avoid Palmer until I know for sure that he's fine and that he doesn't need to take these injections, because that's very concerning. With Gakpo, he should start against Chelsea. Having said that, I'm not really bullish on a return, and most of his goals and assists come at Anfield. So yeah, with Gakpo, they're both sellable, to be quite honest with you. Semenyo is the clear standout in the midfield. Then it gets a bit more difficult, but you've got Ndai. I'm not going to say Bruno Fernandes, to be fair. You can avoid him if you want. But yeah, there's not many standouts in the midfield. That's the main reason why I went for Bruno today. Enzo playing as an attacking midfielder is a very good pick. Question is, how long is Palmer not going to play? Well, Enzo Maresca said 2 to 3 weeks, so until the international break, and then they'll see if he can return, but that's not a guarantee. I think Cole Palmer will be available by game week 8 or 9, but once again, I have to say, until he can play without injections, I'd rather avoid that and go for a Bukayo Saka, for example. Enoch says, Amram has to make the tough call of getting Bruno off pen duties for Man United. Again, he's a liability playing in midfield too. He'll fire off playing as a 10. Yeah, I agree with you. Bruno Fernandes, his best football and productivity comes as a number 10, you know, in a 4-2-3-1 formation for Sporting and also for United when he first joined. So I think that's a very good point. But he also had that purple patch last season in this formation, and he played in a deeper role. So it's also a question of things just not clicking for United. Fernandes is missing penalties, and yeah, things are just not in sync right now. Peshang says, yo, what's up, Dylan? Congrats on the triple captaincy. We're chilling. Yeah, I mean, the triple captaincy, a bit fortunate, but ultimately I think of it as a logical decision which has paid off in the end with Haaland's stat padding towards the last few minutes. But yeah, better late than never, right? Eddie Cassie says, my wildcard ended on 50 points with a -1 from Fernandes. Have Gabriel, Raya, Gyökeres, Tarkowski and Dye left to play. Yeah, good position to be in. I'm less keen on Everton assets this week against West Ham and then that triple up in Arsenal against West Ham next week. But yeah, good players left. I think 2 of them should get a return, so looking pretty decent. People triple captain Haaland this week must have been sweating hard. Well, I was already saying at around 87, 88 minutes, yeah, triple captaincy flop, just like Haaland against Southampton last season. Actually, what happened to Solanke and Colin Mwani? I referred to this in my recent videos like the Lineups podcast yesterday and the deadline stream today. So Dominic Solanke still has a minor issue, and it's enough to keep him out again. And I think Colin Mwani suffered a problem over the last couple of days. That's why I missed the midweek game. And Richarlison's playing a lot of minutes now. But yeah, very soon, once Colin Mwani and Solanke are back, which should be after the international break for sure, maybe even earlier, we could see Richarlison being benched again and seeing a bit of rotation in that Tottenham attack. I find it interesting that Sunderland are still seen as a green fixture. Well, this is the thing, right? We could change it to a grey fixture now, and then all of a sudden, United beat them, and then Sunderland maybe lose a few points and start going down the table. I mean, I think it still makes sense for them to be a green fixture, but they're certainly not easy. At the beginning of the season, I had them as a dark green fixture, which is one of the easiest fixtures you can ask for, and that was obviously wrong. Aurora says, can Fulkrug be the new Wood? Yeah, someone mentioned this earlier. I don't think he'll score 20 Premier League goals in a season, but stylistically and profile-wise, he could definitely have that same sort of effect in that West Ham team. So, yeah, Fulkrug could be the main striker, starting, let's say, 25 of the next 30 Premier League games. It all depends on fitness and stuff like that. And you've also got Callum Wilson, who's a Premier League proven striker. But Fulkrug could definitely be a decent asset to keep an eye on. But it's still Burn for me. He's my favourite West Ham asset. They couldn't keep Potter for the trip to the Emirates. I'm not surprised, to be honest. I'm not going to play victim or anything, but obviously we saw recently Nuno sacked and then Ange Postecoglou coming in. Didn't do him much good, but yeah, I'm hoping that's the case next week where West Ham still lose quite comfortably. I don't think that'll be the case. It will be very tough for Arsenal. Cucurella is starting to annoy me. 0 points twice in 2 weeks. Well, the red cards obviously haven't helped, but yeah, Chelsea defenders don't look worth it right now. If you want premium defenders, Gabriel, Van Dijk, the two safest options you can go for, and I don't mind Munoz despite the blank today. The Egyptian King lost his groove. Well, it's not just this season, right? Even towards the end of the last campaign, he had a clear drop-off from February onwards. So it's not a massive shock, but yeah, you'd still expect a bit more from him in terms of underlying numbers. He was great against Atletico Madrid against in the Champions League in matchday 1 just a couple of days ago. So yeah, it's a bit of a surprise. Twan says, hi Dylan, which one better, Caicedo, Joao Pedro for next week against Liverpool? Joao Pedro's ceiling will be higher. Caicedo offers you almost a guarantee of 4 points. I know he didn't do it today, but yeah, I think against Liverpool, he should get DEFCON. I'm going to say Joao Pedro still. I think Chelsea will score. Why didn't you go for Roofs in FPL Challenge? Well, I did talk about this earlier. I want to jinx Nick Pope, so I'll probably just stick with him in the end. Otherwise, I'll make a late change to another goalkeeper. And to be honest with you, mate, I didn't expect Sunderland to keep a clean sheet. I thought Forest would get a win. Hi, Dylan. Rodon and Alderete on my bench. Foden and Bruno 0 points. Yeah, really bad, as covered earlier. Bergvall looks good. He has been in good form recently, but someone asked me about him FPL-wise. He's only got 1 Premier League goal in his career, which came against West Ham. So a lot of potential. Exciting talent. Wouldn't go for him in FPL. Twan says, and I plan to take Reinders out for Doku or Foden better. I don't think that's necessary. Doku, very impressive today. 2 assists. I still think Reinders is the best one long-term. Foden is a nice punt. Scored a hat-trick against Brentford a couple of years ago. I don't think that will be the case now. Joao Pedro to Richarlison? No, I don't think so. Especially when Colomwani and Solanke are back. That could be a big issue. Yeah, Joao Pedro is the better option long-term. I wouldn't sell him personally. Yeah, Laga says, saludos. Thank you very much. Sirad says, I'm doing well on 71 points, thanks to Haaland triple captain in the top 300k. Great position to be in at this stage of the season, and good points tally. Another surrender after the red. Can we have a serious manager? Look, Enzo Maresca's done fairly well in his Chelsea career so far, but obviously the perception of him has been massively inflated from the last couple of months, winning the Conference League and the Club World Cup. He still needs to make an impression in this competition and the Champions League, though. That's for sure. Xavi Yellow, another failure. Another exciting talent, a lot of potential. He's my favourite Spurs attacker long-term, but yeah, Kudus is the safest pick, which I talked about going into today. Yeah, Doughty nearly scored before the end of the first half. That would have been quite a sight. Yeah, the bonus points you see from the FPL website, and you can also check livefpl.net, and you can see your current rank and also which players are scoring points and every single match with the bonus points being broken down. Okay, so if you haven't already, you know the drill by now. Smash the like button, subscribe if you're new, and also hit the notification bell. Keep your eyes peeled for UCL Fantasy and FPL content because there's a lot headed your way right now. And check all the links in the description for my Patreon and the championships, fairlax to my videos, amongst many other perks. My Discord server, the FPL League, and Spotify could also be found in the description. Bloody hell, what was that? I don't know. You tell me. But yeah, I'll be going live for a little bit longer. This will be, well, I mean, what I said at the beginning, a short and sweet reaction stream. But there's still plenty of comments to go through, so I'm going to try whiz through these. There are still more as we speak. Wolves have scored, if the chat isn't trolling me. I'm going to see if I can catch it live and then react to it, but that would be bloody lovely. I'm not going to lie to you, but that means Pedro Porter's coming on for a stinky one-pointer. It is what it is. Beggars can't be choosers, right? So just going to have a look now. if this is true. Hopefully I haven't been baited. No, I haven't been. There has been a goal. And PSG are 1-0 up, by the way. Zabani scoring Vitinha with the assist. But Vitinha was subbed off after 36 minutes. What's that about? One to monitor for UCL Fantasy. So yeah, let's check out this goal. Oh dear. Yeah, I just saw it. And that was Santiago Bueno. Okay. Yeah, well, like I said before, Spurs have a great opportunity today to go second in the Premier League table. But yeah, maybe that midweek magic, changing the formation against Everton, has done Wolves the world of good. So yeah, I just want to have a quick look at the replay. So it's from a corner. Okay, so yeah, I think Strand Larsen does head it, if I'm not mistaken. Vicario saves, and then Santiago Bueno scores the rebound. Maybe not. I'm getting him confused with someone else. I don't think... Was that Strand Larsen? No, that might have been Krejci. Yeah, I think it might have been Krejci. But, yeah. A very scrappy goal. And Wolves take the lead. So thank you to Man City are finished for keeping me posted. Lager says, I have 2 free transfers and 6.2 in the bank, so I am almost 100% sure I am bench boosting in 7. Not sure where I'll replace players, but at least Mark Guiu has to go, and Estef, a brace of own goals. I mean, wow. Like I said before, though, massive shout out to him because he prevented Foden from scoring the first goal. Ruler 2 says, Dylan, should I wildcard or take a -8? On wildcard, I can make more moves, like defender moves, but -8 is to bring in Saka, Gyökeres, Saliba in my team. Well, I'm just wondering when you would wildcard if you take a -8 hit now, because I'm guessing it'd be Gameweek 13 maybe. I'd probably wildcard in this situation. The only downside is you've got an international break around the corner. What do you think about West Ham under Nuno now? Well, I'll have a great look about it on Monday night. That'll be very interesting to see, of course. But yeah, people have rightfully picked out Fulkrug as a main beneficiary. I think that could be a shout, but I think Jared Bowen becomes an option once again. Then a Dieu for Wan-Bissaka once he's back from his illness as well. Those are the options I'm looking at from West Ham, actually. Fulkrug could be a tertiary option. With West Ham, though, maximum 2 players. I think Bowen is the priority. So yeah, let's go through the other ones since I've answered some of these questions already. Yes, you are correct there, Gibbery. Haaland should get 3 bonus points, and yeah, he will get them. Exact money to do Van der Ven to Gabriel. Should I do it now before the Gabriel price rise? Long term, it's worth it. Obviously, Spurs conceding now might push you towards making the transfer now. There are other Arsenal defenders, but none of them will be as nailed on or secure as Gabriel. You could say Saliba, to be fair. And in terms of DEFCON and baseline bonus, I think Saliba's better. But Gabriel will score more goals this season, and he's still fairly decent for DEFCON for a premium defender, just not to the same level as a Tarkowski or Senesi, for example. So, yeah, I still like Van der Ven against Leeds away next week, but I'd probably do it. Tom says, bringing in Calvert-Lewin. Look, he's a cheap striker, can do a job for you, great fixtures, but did you see the chance he missed today? You're going to get a lot of that with Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Ariel says, all blanks bar Haaland and Captain Foden by accident. Yeah, so basically Erling Haaland was the only one doing it for you, but that's probably not a good thing. That would result in a rank drop if you have Haaland and didn't captain him. Not in my name. Says just the 4 players so far on yellow cards with no returns and a -1. Yeah, that's horrendous to say the least, but hopefully the Sunday's much better for you. I had this pattern last season where I had a terrible Saturday, and then sometimes the Sunday bailed me out, but not always. Lewis Hall to come to Anfield in the summer after Robbo leaves. I mean, yeah, that would be a very good replacement for Robertson. Having Lewis Hall and Kirkes, 2 of the best left-backs in the Prem, is pretty good squad depth. I think Liverpool need more of that, especially in their defensive line. Frimpong and Bradley's okay. You could also play Szoboszlai there, but the centre-backs, especially with the unfortunate injury to the Italian centre-back, Leone, yeah, now it's just down to the bare bones there, especially with Joe Gomez's track record of injuries. Kanate, poor start to the season. His only good performance, in my opinion, was against Arsenal. Van Dijk is still one of the best around, but other than that, I think Liverpool need another centre-back. I've got about 16 points on the bench FML. Yeah, that's very frustrating. I had Rangers last week. I also benched in Die, which was my fault, to be fair, a couple of weeks ago. In the last minute of the deadline stream, I benched in Die for Rangers, but yeah, I mean, that was my mistake there. I'm 70k ranked at the moment. Aggressive wildcard this week is acceptable. Yes, you got to follow your gut and, trust your instincts there, but ultimately, you're in a great position right now. I don't know your team in order for me to say you should wildcard now, in my opinion, or you should save it. So it's difficult for me to give you an informed opinion there. But yeah, you're in a great position. You don't need to wildcard maybe. It just all depends on the context of your squad. Eddie Casey says, hi Dylan, why were Brentford allowed to bring subs on before Bruno took the penalty? Also, I listened to Michael Owen and Owen Hargreaves and they said it was a clear red card for Collins. Yeah, I think the Collins red, yeah, you are correct about that. It should have been a red card. I'm not sure about the substitutions, but ultimately with Bruno Fernandes, I think he complained about the referee touching him before the Fulham game, before he took the penalty against Fulham, and that put him off. But yeah, Bruno Fernandes ultimately took a bad penalty. That was the main reason why he missed. But you are correct about the red card to Collins. It should have been a red card, in my opinion. Is Triple Forest or Cucurella Bodro enough to wildcard? Yeah, arguably. Bodro will start against Leeds, though. This is just kind of like a rare benching and rest for him. Cucurella has not been good enough. Chelsea's fixtures turn for the worse. They're also down to the bare bones in their defensive line. You can go to Gabriel, Virgil van Dijk, Munoz, and all these different defenders. I still like Lacroix. And Tarkovsky's a brilliant option. Senesi. So yeah, that could be enough. I think so. Raman says, is free it viable to get Salah and then wildcarding Gameweek 13 to get Salah knowing I only have Haaland? Why do you want to get Salah so badly? That's my question. They are facing Chelsea next week, who are down to the bare bones, but Salah's record at Stamford Bridge isn't great. I'm not sure about free hitting just to get Salah. Wildcarding in 13 is viable. That's not a bad idea. Then Salah goes off to AFCON, but you get 5 free transfers in 16, as covered before. So yeah, Mario, I did cover that. I used the wildcard, so no triple captain, the robot. Yeah, that's very disappointing for you. Hopefully you can turn things around, but look, the wildcard in 6 isn't a bad idea. I just looked at it from my perspective and my situation, and I never really felt I needed to, but I might feel that need in Gameweek 7 or 8, and it won't be vastly different to a Gameweek 6 wildcarder. Eddie Casey says, hi Dylan, my wildcard got me 50 points and had -1 on Bruno. Yeah, Raya. Yeah, so good players left, that's covered before, Eddie. You're in a good spot. 50 points is a good score on the wildcard. Juno DC or DSCVR says, evening mate, I think there's a real case for having both Haaland and the Egyptian King. There are so many good cheap options in defense for 4 million. Alderete did me well this week. Yeah, true. But look, you had a Steph second on your bench and he scored a brace of own goals. Ultimately, you were always going to bench him against City away, but I don't think you can rely on Rodon and Alderete long-term to start week in, week out. That's my only concern, but you make a good point. Maybe on a wild card, you could have 2 4 million defenders. Not 3 of them, though. I still think that's way too much. A Gamer Time says 84 points so far. Great score. Was nowhere near to selling Keller for Petrovic. Did triple captain Haaland as well. Nearly bench Gay for Goodmanson. Well, everything went right for you, so fair play. And for Gay to get that late 7-pointer is another massive boost. Everyone's team in my league this week looks so similar. I hope soon enough we can get away from the template team soon. Otherwise, there's no fun in watching Semenyo and Haaland score. Well, there really isn't. I mean, I'm not going to deny it. Erling Haaland scoring this week, I didn't celebrate, but I was happy from an FPL perspective because that gave me a green arrow. That was only because I triple captained them, though. Otherwise, a normal captaincy wouldn't suffice. So I get your perspective there. And Semenyo is so template already. He has gone up in price so many times. I've basically forgotten now if he's going to go up to 7.8 tomorrow or something like that. So it's incredible. But yeah, hopefully we can get some more differentials. In terms of my team, and I'm not flexing on anything, but using the website livefpl.net, they do say that Sanchez, Konsa, Chris Wood, and also 1 or 2 others like Ndai are actually differentials for me. So any returns from them would result in a massive rank rise, but I just haven't been able to get those differentials, consistently right. Ndai's been decent for me. I only benched him once, which was my mistake, but yeah, it's about getting the differentials spot on as well. Yeah, Bodro coming on, no surprises whatsoever for that 1-pointer. I mean, if Spurs score, hopefully it's Pedro Porro involved, but I'm asking for a lot there. Hey Dylan, I have sells, such a troll, and either Porro gets a cameo or is Stev going to come in with his awesome -2 and add insult to injury? Well, as long as Porro doesn't get booked or sent off, 1 point is better than -2. I'll take that all day long, but yeah, it's not ideal. In my situation, I would have rather Lacroix come on for 4 points, but it's not going to happen. Austin says, just wanted to say that Atletico Madrid beating Real Madrid 5-2 today is a big statement after a rough start to their season. Yes, they were 9th in the league before that match. I predicted 1-1, by the way, and I said Mbappe would score. So when it went to 1-1 and Mbappe scored the equaliser, I was thinking, I'm cooking my prediction. And then it all went tits up. Arda Güler put them ahead 2-1, and then Atletico Madrid destroyed them. So, yeah, great free kick by Alvarez. He's a game changer for Atletico, and they need to keep him for as long as possible. And it does open the door for Barcelona again in La Liga. Lager says, no, don't say it. Sorry, I'm just... I knew it was going to happen. If you're talking about Porro, that is. Free transfers can't wait to get rid of Salah, Wood and Sanchez and bring in Raya, Sarr and Gyökeres. Yeah, Jamel Sarr will be one to consider on the wildcard too. Not great fixtures, but he's fixture-proof. He scored against Villa a couple of weeks ago. He loves to score against them and Liverpool. So a very decent asset who is going to return in a lot of game weeks this season. Pen Pal Simon says, then I have money left to improve the defense. Yeah, looks good. And you can get Tarkowski, Gabriel, Virgil van Dijk. I think this year the best formation is 4-3-3. You might be onto something there, Brandon, and I talked about this before. I'm more keen this season to play a back four than ever before. And in terms of the midfield, even a couple of weeks ago, it might have been for Game Week 5 actually, I was considering benching in Dye and Reinders, and they both returned against Liverpool and Arsenal. But yeah, it's a genuine consideration actually. There's not enough consistent midfielders this season. Sharma says, I've made my transfers for next week. It was either Bruno for Saka or Joao Pedro for Gyökeres. Went for the striker this time. I still like Joao Pedro and Bruno Fernandes for next week, but I understand why you wanted to sell them. I think West Ham will be tough, though, with Nuno Espirito Santo now. Yeah, Xhaka. I think with Sunderland, though, their standout options are Alderete, Mukiele, Roofs in goal. Isidor's been the best attacker. But Xhaka can get the odd defcon, a few assists here and there. He's not going to score many goals, though. Commonplace says, glad I listened to your advice last week and did a -4 of Watkins, Salah, Aina to Haaland, Semenyo, Senesi, and I triple captain Haaland. Well, I appreciate Commonplace. Ultimately, you made the transfers, and yeah, a lot of these players are kind of template. At least Senesi's ownership is a bit lower, though. I wish I had Senesi. He is one of the best defenders that I don't have in my FPL team just yet, but he'll surely come in for me on the wild card. Getting defcon in every single game, the assists against Tottenham and Leeds are just bonus, to be quite honest with you. Latino Dialect says, yo Dylan, congrats on our triple captain success. Everyone who captained Haaland is smashing it this week. Bro, you will not believe me, I just entered the top 5k. It's a generational game week for me. With differentials like Igor Thiago, that is incredible. To be honest, I think that is even better than the triple captaincy on Haaland. That might seem a bit exaggerated, but when you've got a differential like Igor Thiago hauling the way he did, I think that's even sweeter. To have both of them happen at the same time, it's not a big surprise that you're in such a great rank. So keep on going. Hopefully you're at the top 1k by the end of the week. If not, by the end of the next match day, going into the international break. Thanks for the congrats. Dude, I'm over this world. Yeah, enjoy it. I mean, FPL can sometimes kick you in the balls, but when you do get these rewards, you got to enjoy it. And the reward is not being kicked in the balls, by the way. It's getting points in bloody FPL. Crystal Palace is the new black goat for Liverpool. Yeah, a bit of a bogey team maybe, but a lot of their games have been tight. A lot of draws in there. Could have gone either way. I think Palace deserved to win today based on the first half where they could have been out of sight. Alisson kept them in it. And yeah, a lot of big chances in that game. Liverpool had 6, Palace had 7. Yeah, a draw could have been a fair result as well, to be fair. Sorry, Game Week 8 free hit and wildcard 13. Yeah, not a bad alternative strategy. I'm not completely against that. But I'm looking at it myself, and I'm looking at the wildcard in 8. I talked about this before in my chip strategy guide as well. One downside for me in terms of wildcarding in 13 is that just 3 weeks later, you get 5 free transfers anyway. So I think you can maximize things a little bit more by wildcarding slightly earlier in Game Week 8, maybe bench boost in 9, and then you can free hit in 11, for example, and do things that way. because you get 5 free transfers. Everyone gets them in Game Week 16 for AFCON. Oh my god, all my teams conceded. Wolves, Forest, and City. Wolves? Well, I'm guessing you meant Spurs. Dylan Kudus is so far the most attacking player in that Spurs side. I'm watching the game. It's not only the assist threat this game, but also goal threat. Yeah, the offside goal also forced a great save by Johnston. He's got a great record against Wolves, and I did back him to score his first Tottenham Hotspur goal tonight. So if he has done so already whilst I'm speaking, or if he's about to do it, I wouldn't be surprised, but hopefully he doesn't. Why did Mbeumo not get points for earning the penalty? It's not like UCL Fantasy where you earn points for earning a penalty. In FPL, you only get points for the assist if the goal is converted. So because Bruno Fernandes missed, it doesn't matter. Mbeumo won a penalty which wasn't converted. And in FPL, you don't get points just for earning a penalty. It has to be an assist. Yeah, exactly that batter. Probably people who played UCL Fantasy and the Euros and the Club World Cup who are used to that sort of system. Emma O'Connell says, what about bringing in an Arsenal player tonight before the price increases? I'm not against that. And long term, 2 or 3 Arsenal is definitely the way to go. But West Ham will be difficult next week. I'm probably going to back a low-scoring win for the Gunners. Bentancur off, Johnson on. Thank you for the update. Yeah, I think with Tottenham Hotspur now that I think about it, I got 9 out of 11 correct. And I did make a late change of bringing in Johnson to that lineup, but there you go. At least with a few others like Sunderland, Man United, I got 11 out of 11. Good predictions overall. So yeah, thank you, Bada. Fulkrug is hot. What is this, mate? Chill. It's all about FPL points. What do you think about Enzo Fernandez? Yeah, decent mid-price midfielder. In the absence of Palmer, even more appealing because he's on penalties and free kicks, but you've also got Ndai. Semenyo's the standout. I just don't think there are many standout midfielders in the midfield, with the exception of Semenyo, to be fair. So Enzo Fernandez isn't shabby. What doesn't put Bruno off? He'd moan about the grass being green, putting him off. Yeah, maybe. He's a bit of a moaner, but look, quality player on his day. Go on, Borro, get a Woldy, lad. Yeah, I'm not sure about that one, mate, but maybe it'll age like a fine wine. Simmons is overhyped, not doing much. It is early days, though. He's just joined Tottenham Hotspur, but as soon as he got 1 assist against West Ham, he's better than Eze, mum. Oh, mama. Xavi Simmons. We should never have gotten Eze. I'm so happy we got hijacked by Arsenal. Yeah, that's just BS when people say that. But conversely, taking the Arsenal side out of it, he's just joined the Premier League, so I'll give him a bit of time and the benefit of the doubt. Hi there, is it time to get rid of JP? I got Haaland and Gyökeres. I don't think so. On a wild card, I'd still have that front three, actually. You might want to go about things a little bit differently and have a cheaper striker like Igor Thiago now. The fixtures aren't great for Brentford, though. There's also a Calvert-Lewin in there if you want to stomach that pain. Danny Welbeck. Yeah, I just don't really like those sorts of alternatives. Joao Pedro will be more consistent over the course of the season. I'd be more intrigued by Ivanosen or Nick Waltemada, actually, if you want to go outside the template a little bit. So yeah, Sam, I did cover your question earlier, mate. My current plan is the wildcard in Game Week 8. It's not set in stone. You're now looking to wildcard next Game Week to get rid of Wood, Nico Williams, Konsa, Wirtz, Bruno, and get Arsenal players. I understand that. Just don't be surprised if Konsa returns against Burnley because it's a home fixture and Villa have been solid defensively. And Bruno Fernandes is still a good option against Sunderland, despite the recent disappointments. I don't think there's a La Liga fantasy, but well, Bada says there is. There was a Serie A version, but I think that got cancelled. There's one for Bundesliga, the Scottish Premier League, the Championship, I believe, the Swedish League as well. I don't play all of them. Just saying. Bruno and Chalobah hurt the game week. Haaland saved it. Yeah, really frustrating and unlucky on your part. Bruno Fernandes I can relate to. I had the Sanchez situation last week, and Chalobah's red card also affected Sanchez's ability to get a clean sheet this week as well. But yeah, Chelsea have a big problem here in terms of those situations, and the way they play sometimes leads to some big risks and also chances conceded. And they need to address that ASAP. They can't do that against Liverpool. Benciano96 says, I have Thiago. Fair play to everyone watching who has Thiago. Really well done, because that is a massive differential. I didn't really big him up at all in the last week or so, and that's a massive differential. I think the season of having 4 and 5 top defenders are done after Game Week 5. Yeah, well, you can have a back 4 or 5 this season and not have premiums. You could have these kind of cheaper options like Senesi and stuff like that. But Van der Ven had a great start to the season. Now he's blanking against Wolves. We'll see how that goes in the end. Leeds away next week. Then there's a fixture swing against Tottenham from Gameweek 8 onwards. So things do change very quickly. Yeah, I agree, Lima. I haven't heard much about La Liga Fantasy as well. I didn't even think it existed, but I do recommend UCL Fantasy, which is maybe the second or third most popular fantasy football game behind FPL, but it might be the best one. It's definitely the most interesting at the beginning of the tournament with so many differentials and ways of playing. I cover it every single season, and yeah, it's an absolute blast. Salah looks good for the next two. What should I do? I have one free transfer and have both Haaland and Salah. Need to upgrade my midfield. Well, I'd love to answer your question, but I don't know who you got, mate, apart from Salah and Haaland. So you want to upgrade your midfield. You know, if you don't have Semenyo, I still think it's better late than never. Go for Semenyo. Long term, that'll pay off. Apart from that, you've got Ndiaye and a few other midfielders, but maybe Saka could be another one. I just doubt you've got the funds to buy Saka with those two in there. Wharton or Nemecha in the summer for depth. Yeah, you're already dreaming about more additions for Liverpool. Raya, Gabriel or Calafiori Timber for wildcard this upcoming game week. Difficult one. I'd probably say Gabriel. You know what? I'm going to say Raya and Timber. I'm guessing that's the way you've structured your question. So Raya or Gabriel. I'm going to say Raya and then Timber. Yeah, that probably looks pretty decent. Yeah, Anish, he's only out for one game. It's the same situation as Robert Sanchez. It's a one-game suspension. He'll be available for Gameweek 8. You guess it's just one game, not a serious foul. Yeah, it's the same situation as Robert Sanchez, sorry. Professional last man foul. Yeah, it's not foul play, so it's a one-game ban. Rye says, I regret picking Richarlison over Thiago. Yeah, I'm not going to change my mind about it. You know, I thought Richarlison was a very underrated captaincy option this week. I've got him in FPL Challenge, but it's going horribly wrong. Let's refresh this, by the way. Pedro Porro is still on a one-pointer, and hopefully it stays that way, and Wolves get the victory. But yeah, even points being dropped is still, you know, surprising, to say the least. So Bergvall just got fouled, or, well, it was 11 minutes ago. But yeah, some things to look out for in the, you know, across Europe, and that's why I'm going to take that into account with my UCL fantasy videos. You know, Inter Milan are winning 2-0 right now. Juventus drew 1-1 against Atalanta, who went down to 10 men. Lautaro Martinez and Esposito scored the goals for Inter. Bastoni got an assist. So I think Thuram was on the bench, right? Or was he subbed off? Yeah, Thuram was subbed off, and I was considering him for UCL fantasy. And I still think he'll start, by the way, but yeah, one to look at. Obviously, Atletico Madrid beating Real Madrid 5-2 was a massive shock. Game of the weekend so far. Dortmund with another 2-0 victory. Adeyemi continuing his fine form, scoring again. Svensson got the other goal. 2 assists by Julian Brandt. And PSG are currently 2-0 up. But Vitinha might have picked up an injury. He was subbed off after 36 minutes, so one to monitor. Yeah, Beraldo just scored a second goal for Paris Saint-Germain. So yeah, that will all be covered in the coming videos, of course. And yeah, almost another goal there for Wolves. No, sorry. No, they're just showing the replay of the goal. What an idiot. Yeah, Bueno scoring that scrappy goal again. Always nice to see it. Can I see it one more time, please? Keep Salah or replace. I already have Haaland. Well, it depends, right? Because if you don't see like an obvious upgrade you can make by downgrading Salah, maybe just keep him. One thing you could consider, apart from Semenyo, which is so obvious, is to go for Saka early. And then with that money, you can get premium defenders, bolster your other positions as well. So if you're not going to someone like Saka or Semenyo, I'd probably hold Salah. Lee Cherry says, so a few more weeks, feel like Chelsea are on the decline, mate. You're going to be patient? Well, João Pedro is still a hold for me. On a wild card, I would sell Sanchez, and, you know, that kind of goes without saying, right? But, you know, Chelsea could be on the decline, concede a lot of chances, and still score goals. Enzo Fernandez was good today. João Pedro is still going to be a consistent forward. But it's also a question of finding that sort of like-for-like striker, maybe Jean-Philippe Mateta, to just come in and do the job. So you can stray away from the template and find ways of gaining an advantage over the rest of the pack. Yeah, I think Saka's the one. If you aren't going for Semenyo, and to be honest, most people have him. Yeah, I think Saka's the one. Last game, Sanchez got a red and went off, but the 2 goals still got him a -1. I need to double check this and make sure I answer this properly. So give me a second. And by the way, yeah, no, there's been a goal, but that's for Villarreal, Athletic Bilbao. So 2 teams featuring in the Champions League. I think this... I'm watching the game a little bit, and it just keeps on replaying the goal. That's crazy. So yeah, I just refreshed it, and now it's working again. So yeah, that was stuck on an endless loop. So for this question, let's make sure this is correct. Because that game I watched the highlights, I didn't see it live. I was watching the Liverpool and Man City games, and also Man United earlier. So Chalobah was sent off in the 53rd minute. And yeah, Brighton did score, yeah, all of the goals afterwards, yeah. Yeah, so he would have gotten a -1 point for conceding 2 goals, yeah. I'll double check that he did. Yeah, he got -3 points. Just like Robert Sanchez, the same situation. So yeah, nothing dodgy is happening there at FPL headquarters. I agree, Craig. I also like UCL Fantasy better. Salah's starting to get some heat from critics and fans. He also got that, though, not last season, but the one before, when Liverpool were top of the league by Christmas, I think. Then they kind of fell apart from April onwards, where they lost to Crystal Palace at home, and Salah ghosted for the last 2-3 months of the season. So it's not the first time. It comes with the territory, right? You know, he's one of the best players in Premier League history. He was incredible last season, but he hasn't hit the heights so far in this campaign. Latino Dialect says... I didn't watch today's game. How was he? And what does he need to perform again? Because he performed against Atletico. Yeah, that was a great performance. That was more like the Salah of old. But in the Premier League, a few jammy returns here and there. It wasn't enough to get something today. Austin says, Dylan, as a Barca fan, I think if Alvarez comes to Barca, I don't think he might shine as the box-to-box striker that we desperately need. But he's great as a shadow striker and free kick specialist that we lack. Yeah, Alvarez isn't like a prolific goal scorer. He's not an Erling Haaland or Mbappe, but he can still give you 20 to 25 league goals, give you also 5 to 10 Champions League goals, and be a consistent performer and give you a lot in all areas of the pitch. He's one of the best pressers in world football for an attacker, and he's been crucial for Argentina winning the World Cup and Copa America. So yeah, I have a lot of respect for Alvarez, and he could become a world-class player, but I don't think he's quite there yet. Maybe that's a bit harsh, because he is one of the better strikers in world football, that's for sure. El Hassan says, my midfield is Salah, Semenyo, Reinders, King, Caicedo. Yeah, I agree that King is the one to upgrade if you do Salah to Saka. That's the thing. I don't really feel the need you need to do it. Possibly Enzo Fernandez, not the best move for Game Week 7, though. I'd probably say Ismail Assar or Indai, actually. That's what I'd recommend, and you still have plenty of money in the bank. Hey Beardy, yes, welcome to Beardy, who also has a great YouTube channel. Be sure to check it out. Do you think wildcard is best for Game Week 8 or after? It is team dependent, but at the moment I am looking at a Game Week 8 wildcard, yeah. The next option would be 13, but then you've got 5 free transfers in 16 because of AFCON. So I think it's probably best to wildcard a little bit earlier, and Game Week 8 looks really good. It's also during an international break as well. So yeah, once I return, because I'll take a bit of a break from making content, I'll be probably wildcarding by that stage and offering my thoughts as well. Something off from FPL, do you think that was a Salah handball? I believe so. From what I've seen, I believe that goal should have been chalked off. Then again, you could argue that Palace's first goal shouldn't have been a corner. So I think both sets of fans could feel aggrieved. Ultimately, the officiating is poor in most Premier League matches. It's something we're kind of used to by now. But yeah, hopefully it improves one day. I just very much doubt it will. Yeah, I do like Ismail Assar. I actually bought him a couple of weeks ago instead of Fernandez, and yeah, it resulted in a 20-point swing against me, but Sarr did score in that game against Villa, then got injured, which was a big shame because I was looking at him as a long-term punt. I can't speak for what my final wildcard team for Game Week 7 would be in terms of for that video, which should be published next Thursday, but at the moment, I would really consider a structure of Semenyo, maybe Saka, Indai, Caicedo possibly, and also going for Sarr and having that sort of midfield structure. So Simmons was subbed off for Odegaard. Yeah, another stinker and hook there. Man City Finish says, got 2 free transfers, probably going to do Salah to Saka and Van Dijk to Gabriel. Bit worried about the United game a bit. Well, I think Liverpool will beat United quite comprehensively, especially if Amram is still there. But as bad as Amram has been at United, apart from the City game, most of those matches have been quite tight. And even there, they had opportunities to score and cause City problems. Thank you, Lee Cherry. Ashwin says 17 points from Alderete on my bench. Also Anthony 6 points. That is extremely frustrating to say the least, but I don't really blame you, mate. I mean, some people did fancy, they fancied Sunderland to get a result, but for a clean sheet and for Alderete to score the winning goal and get DEFCON, yeah, that's a bit of misfortune in my opinion. Do you think Wolves are turning the table after that Everton game, or it's not solid yet given they have nice fixtures? No, I think so. When I saw the result against Everton and the change of formation, that really caught my eye. And I was having a bit of hopium and copium that they could get a result against Tottenham. Now, this game isn't over yet. I still think Tottenham can score 2 late goals, but yeah, it's looking really good right now. And even if Spurs score a late equaliser, I think Wolves would take that, Obviously, from the position they were in, scoring quite early on and defending for most of the second half, they'd be disappointed, but it's a platform and foundation to build upon. And with those fixtures, yeah, they could build towards something. Like I said last season, when Vitor Pereira was doing a good job at Wolves, I felt that he would struggle this season and that he could be one of the first managers sacked. But let's see if this Everton game, of course, in midweek, and now Spurs could be a catalyst for future success and a different formation because they've got some good players in there. Watching the Spurs game as a Kudus Van der Ven owner hurts. Yeah, Kudus, very unlucky not to get a return today, and I was backing him quite heavily, actually. I've been playing FPL for like 6 years now, to be honest. And when I first started, I missed deadlines. I played very casually. I took minus 20 hits. I just had fun with it. And yeah, sometimes I didn't have fun with it because the hits would backfire. I learned from it, and I became more of a patient manager. Had a few good seasons when I first started making content, and now trying to get back on track because this season has been the worst so far. And I'm a bit like Man United. Every year I say the same bloody thing. It's time to break that cycle and do even better. For UCL Fantasy as well, I've been playing it since 2019, 2020. And in that game, I do even better. Top 800 a few times, top 3K, I think a few top 20Ks in there as well. And I've also covered the Club World Cup in the summer, the Euros and the World Cup as well. Watkins for Gyökeres or Borja for Gabriel? Well, difficult to say because Watkins, as bad as he's been, has Burnley at home. I think the biggest upgrade long-term would be Borja to Gabriel, actually. And I also think West Ham could be a very tough opposition for Arsenal with a dirty, dirty low block. I don't mean to make it sound that bad, but yes, I think Nuno Espirito Santo will be very defensive at the Emirates next week. Man City are finished, says Semenyo vs Isak Elise attack next season. Yeah, that's not happening, mate. Sorry to break it to you. You're not going to get Schlotterbeck, Elise, Wharton, and who else did you mention? Yeah, Elise out of Bayern Munich. Why would he leave? Your team is good enough. Don't think it needs a wild card. Well, thank you. The points might suggest otherwise because if it wasn't for Haaland triple captain, I would be in the mud. Chris Wood blank, Bruno Fernandes disaster class, Reinders blank, Joao Pedro another blank, Robert Sanchez disappointment, Pedro Porro obviously came off the bench and Spurs conceded anyway. We'll see how Konsa, Gabriel and Ndai do on Sunday and Monday, but yeah, apart from Haaland, it's just Semenyo returning, and it was enough for a green arrow because of the triple captaincy, so I am grateful. I don't think my team is terrible, to be honest, but it has underperformed this season, for sure. Anish says midfield for Gameweek 7, Gakpo, Semenyo, Sarr, Kudus, Eze. I like the look of it. My favourite Arsenal midfielder is Saka, though. And yeah, Kudus is definitely a keep against Leeds away, but he does become a sell fairly soon, in my opinion, if you're basing it off the fixtures. FPL David says, I have so many shite players in my team like Williams, Xavi Simons, Ivanosen, Verbruggen, Elliot Anderson, or Harvey Elliott and Anderson. I also have Salah and Haaland. Do I wildcard in 7? Well, look, Xavi Simons plays Leeds away next week. If he starts that game, I think he's a okay option on paper. I don't think Ivanosen is crap. He's just been quite inconsistent, and he pales in comparison to Semenyo. Nico Williams and Verbruggen, yeah, they're both clear sells. Harvey Elliott just doesn't start. It is Burnley at home next week, though, so the timing could be slightly awkward. As for Elliot Anderson, if that's a separate player as well, if you've got both Harvey Elliott and Elliot Anderson, well, yeah. I don't think he's a terrible pick, but he does also not quite stack up to a Caicedo, Reinders, and all these other midfielders at a similar price point. So I'd be tempted to say yes, because you could add Gabriel in your back line, Victor Gyökeres, maybe Saka, and double or triple up on Arsenal. Also add Senesi in there if you don't have him. Semenyo is a must-have right now. And I don't like saying players are essential, and you can do well without Semenyo, but I just look at him as a talismanic figure. Quite rare to see this season in the midfield. He's the clear standout there for me. I'd probably say wildcard in your situation. Not ideal because you've got some good fixtures for some players, and the Gameweek 8 wildcard is a little bit better on paper because you've got the international break as well. Rice says also, if you did watch the United match, how was that not a red? Yeah, I mentioned that earlier. I think it was Eddie who asked me why it wasn't a red. I agree. It should have been a red card for Collins. Bader says it's the second game Spurs bottle it at home. They're unrecognisable in some games. Look, Thomas Frank has done well so far. You've got to give him credit, but yeah, they're going to struggle more against the kind of low blocks, and they still have a bit of time now to salvage a draw, but it's a massive opportunity missed. A simple win here, which most people expected them to do, would have taken them from 7th to 2nd. I have to say, Arsenal tomorrow capitalise. A great opportunity to move to 2nd in the table, put the pressure back on Liverpool, and make it a real title race. Newcastle's not easy, but yeah, it's not. Every game in the Premier League is difficult now, and you see the newly promoted teams like Sunderland, Burnley sometimes, they're making it very difficult. And in hindsight, by the way, it's quite surprising now to see that Burnley beat Sunderland in Game Week 2, but it goes to show that it's very difficult to predict these games. So far this week, I've got no correct scoreline predictions. I did get a few correct last week with Brighton-Tottenham, the 2-2 draw, and West Ham losing to Crystal Palace 2-1. Hopefully I've got a few correct tomorrow, including Arsenal. So I'm going to answer a few more questions and wrap it up since, I did the deadline stream earlier today. And we'll keep things moving. UCL Fantasy will be up next with the best Limitless and Wildcard squad for Match Day 2. And my team selection will be published on Monday. Keep your eyes peeled for that and the deadline stream on Tuesday. Mohammed says, I have one transfer in the bank. If I free hit in Game Week 7, will I have 2 free transfers going into Game Week 8? Yes, you keep the free transfers you had beforehand. You can't stack when you play a chip, but you can keep what you had beforehand. And that's all covered if you rewind my stream to the section where I discuss chip strategies, and you can see every single booster broken down in detail. Also check out my chip strategy guide for both FPL and UCL Fantasy. Yeah, my current plan in Game Week 7, and remember this is a reaction stream, initial thoughts, is to roll. But that could certainly change after the Champions League, injuries, maybe after the Sunday matches. I feel like a player is a certain must-have or a must-sell. But I look at my squad, and I could go for Dubravka against Aston Villa away. I can start Border away to Leeds, Konsa facing Burnley at home, Gabriel against West Ham, Fernandes against Sunderland, for my sins, Reinders and Haaland away to Brentford. I've got Gakpo on the bench facing Chelsea away. Lacroix could also start over Chris Wood, both of them away from home. Joao Pedro at home to Liverpool, I'd probably just stick him in there. And Ndai against Crystal Palace, not the easiest of games, but I'm also not unhappy about starting him. So I don't think it's a terrible team, actually, and it can be quite competitive on paper against the wildcarders. So, yeah, I don't think I'm looking to wildcard in 7. The bench boost, probably not, because I've got Renido Mandava suspended, and I also have 2 goalkeepers with poor fixtures. It could be an option, but Chris Wood could also be dropped for Igor Jesus, and that was another stinker of a performance by him just a few hours ago against Sunderland, so massive disappointment there. Kevy says, Dr. Tottenham at it again. Let's not speak too soon, but it looks like it. No, it doesn't. 1-1. There you go. As soon as I say it, bloody hell. Yeah, Spurs with the equaliser. And it's João Paulinho with the 94th minute. What amazing timing by me. The new Mark Goldbridge, apparently, when it comes to jinxing. Who got the assist? Hopefully, Borro. Come on. If Spurs are going to have this goal and it does stand, make it Borro, and I will smoke a spliff, because Borro means weed in Spanish. Probably not, by the way. I've never smoked, and I'm not going to celebrate a Tottenham goal. So yeah, just going to have a look now and see who scored this. But yeah, perfect timing. This is what... Oh, bloody hell. Come on, Borro assist, Borro assist. Come on. I'm watching it now. Romero. And towards Van der Ven. Crap. Yeah, I don't think he's going to get it, is he? It's a very late goal as well. In the 94th minute. So yeah, probably is going to end in a 1-1 draw. Still a massive opportunity missed, but obviously, yeah. Oh, I think... Oh no, don't tell me that was the assist. Wow. By the way, getting a shut off for a 1-1 draw against Wolves. Where's the mentality? Where's the mentality? Just saying. Same standards, please. Yeah, who got the assist? Yeah, Pape Matic Sarr. I'll take that. No Kudus. Goal contribution. Richarlison, stinker and hooked. Pedro Porro. 1 pointer. It is what it is. So yeah, there we go. Late goal. Congratulations to those with Pape Matic Sarr and Joao Paulinho, which is probably, checks notes, 0 of you. El Hassan says, my gut feeling is that Salah will deliver against Chelsea and United and the narrative will change. It's possible. And it was around Gameweek 6 last season when Salah went up another level. He started pretty well, though, last season, but Diaz had the edge in the first 5 game weeks. Then it all turned massively. With Erling Haaland, though, it's definitely different. Example of a wildcard for 7. I'll talk about this in a respective wildcard video. I did mention some players already in every single position, by the way, and it won't be too dissimilar to what I discussed in the Gameweek 6 wildcard podcast right now. So I'll wait for the Champions League games to happen. I'll be covering UCL Fantasy in the coming days. And on Thursday, keep your eyes peeled for the best wildcard squad for Gameweek 7. I saw some quality about Rodon's second last season with Spurs, and so far very happy with his 6 game weeks. Yeah, very good stuff, and he can get DEFCON quite consistently. So yeah, pretty good, actually. You can't go wrong with him, Goodmanson, Mukiele, or Alderete. Yeah, Sarr assist, exactly. Thank you to those in the chat. I was just kind of hoping for Borro to get the assist, but yeah, that's basically it. Useless goal fantasy-wise, I'll take it. If it's not Borro, it might as well be no one relevant. Yeah, Wolves will be disappointed, but I did say this a few times in the stream. Tottenham can still score late on, but I didn't expect them to drop points, so if that stays that way, I'll take it. Some Spurs fans told me they're in the title race. No, for me, it's Liverpool, who are the favourites. Arsenal would be up there, and City are the third most likely. And with Chelsea, they had a bit of steam at the beginning. Yeah, no chance. It's between Chelsea and Tottenham for 4th, in my opinion. You could see a few outsiders like Bournemouth and Crystal Palace compete for the top 6 or 7. That'd be great to see. Thank you to Rai. Big up to you, Dylan. Thank you so much for all your insights and kind replies to every message. I try to be kind. I'm not always, but thank you very much, Rai, and all the best for the rest. Nice internal rhyme. For the rest of Gameweek 6, and then going into Gameweek 7 as well. I do have Semenyo, but I have no Arsenal. Yeah, I think Bukayo Saka would be the most appealing one. Eze, though, decent goal contribution so far. Scored against Port Vale midweek, got the assist against Man City, and also got an assist against Forest for Victor Gyökeres. Might sell Bruno for Sarr after the Sunderland game. I do like Ismaila Sarr a lot, to be fair. His stats were very impressive before the injury. Only Erling Haaland had a higher XG. And for Game Week 3, I think it was, he had the highest XG of any player against Aston Villa. He should have scored more in that game. Conclusion from 6 weeks so far, I guess form is the criterion to build on, bringing in players. Yeah, and fixtures should be analysed a little bit differently this season, especially with DEFCON. So, yeah, we're getting more unpredictable results, and we don't fully know yet the best teams. I think apart from Liverpool, Arsenal and City, there's a clear gap between those 3 and the rest, but then it becomes very, very close. So, yeah, people did update me in the chat. Paulinho goal, for those that are unaware. So Sarr got the assist. It's now 1-1. Yeah, we did, Kevy. I was trying to be cautious, and then I said, hopefully. And as soon as I say that, I see goal, 1-1. I'm like, I don't know his name. Whoa, yeah. Benziano says that. Yeah, it was Pape Matic Sarr. He was injured, actually, midweek. But yeah, careful, mate. Don't get cancelled. That's my advice to the people watching. I put Pape Matic Sarr on the bench instead of Bruno. Yeah, but what, a 4-pointer? Or was it 5-pointer? Let's actually see how many points this guy's on before we wrap up. Not the best way to end the stream with Spurs scoring, but they're dropping points against Wolves, hopefully. Don't jinx it, Dylan. Don't jinx it. Yeah, oh yeah, it's already 1-1. Okay. Yeah, they dropped points, so yeah, I'll take that. Yeah, not too shabby. Maybe I'll stream more often during a game. They're still showing Joao Paulinho's shameless celebration. Come on, let's get that off screen. It was a good finish, to be fair. And he also scored against Man City back in Gameweek 2. He's not someone I'd recommend in FPL. But yeah, Pape Matar Sarr came on as a sub. So only a 4-pointer for him, if I'm not mistaken. So for this game, the bonus points will be allocated to Joao Paulinho, Santiago Bueno, the 2 goal scorers, and John Arias. Interesting. Arias with no goals or assists. Oh, he was also 1 away from DEFCON. I mean, who has Arias at this point? He's 5.2 million. He's been absolutely terrible. Quality player, though. But FPL-wise, he has been a disaster so far. So yeah, no clean sheet still. Hopefully tomorrow for Ezri Konsa and Watkins blanks. He's not going to. Watkins is going to score, but I'm hoping that he does blank again. It's not a useless goal fantasy-wise. Well, is it? Are you a Pape Matar Sarr owner or something like that? Joao Paulinho? I don't know, you tell me. I mean, the Wolves goal was certainly relevant because it wiped out the Vicario, Romero, and Van der Ven clean sheets. Yeah, the next triple captain opportunity, I'd highly encourage you to check out my chip strategy guide. It's out on my channel from over a month ago. I also talked about it in this stream, if you rewind a little bit. Gameweek 13 or 15. The problem is, you can have Haaland at home to Leeds and Sunderland in the first half of the season. You can also go for Salah, facing those teams as well, but there will be more rotation. There's more of a chance that they get subbed off earlier or have their minutes managed as opposed to Haaland today, which is why I was so bullish on Haaland in Gameweek 6. A bit of fortune, of course, with the late goals, but yeah, if you haven't done so already, I'd say Gameweek 13 or 15. You don't provide bad suggestions there. Salah against United, if they still have Amrim, could be a good shout. It's just Salah's stats this season have been quite poor. Only 2 big chances. The XG is under 2. Haaland's, for example, is almost 7 times more than Mohamed Salah's. Yeah, I'd probably wait for Haaland against Leeds in 13. Wildcard 7 isn't terrible, but I do prefer the Gameweek 8 wildcard with more information and the international break as well. Triple Spurs attack, I'm in the mud. Yeah, and no one that you've got with the goal and assist. Well, I can't complain too much. Now, the rank you see on screen was before the Spurs game started, so it is subject to change. But basically, I've got a green arrow because of Haaland triple captain. And Semenyo got me a goal as well. Everyone else was disappointing. Thank you to Bada for moderating the chat. I'm so sick to death of Forest, I'm tempted to take a -16 just to get rid of them from my team. If you haven't wildcarded already, there is that option instead. I will say that, but I feel the same way, and I've only got Chris Wood. Bro, this goal was so important for the Hotspurs. I'm not a fan, but this goal was so well-deserved this game. Yeah, look, I've only caught snippets of the game here. I saw the goals and a few key moments like Johnston making a save on Kudus, the disallowed goal for the Ghanaian as well. I mean, look, if you base it off stats, it was quite an even game. Maybe a draw was the fair result, but I don't think Tottenham deserved to win. Definitely not. From what I saw. Let me know if you disagree in the live chat. Football is a game of opinions. The same goes for FPL. And yeah, Border 1-pointer, locked and loaded. I mean, if he started and got 2 points, not much better in the grand scheme of things. But yeah, it was always a possibility he was benched today. I can fully understand why Paulinho took his shirt off. Yeah, of course, and you can't over-police. You know, I've seen so many times when Arsenal score a goal, you know, people are so quick to jump. Oh, no, get back to the touchline. No, grab the ball. Don't celebrate. Like, it is football. You can celebrate last-minute goals. I was just hating because it's Tottenham. Thinking of free hit Gameweek 11? Yeah, that was my suggestion for the free hit, but it is team dependent. My current plan is to wildcard in 8, free hit in 11, maybe bench boost in 9 to be fair. Yeah, Bruno to Saka is a good move on paper. I'd still recommend in a lot of cases to keep Bruno, but Saka is an upgrade long term. It looks that way anyway. So drop a like if you haven't already. Let's get this stream to as many likes as possible. 150 will be the aim by the end. So for those watching also, you know, on the catch up and the replay, thank you very much. And also to those watching live, I'll answer a few last questions and comments. Then I'll have late dinner and call it a night. Tomorrow and on Monday, I'll be busy with the UCL fantasy content. Keep your eyes peeled. A Gamer Time says that's 88 points then in die left to play. Well, great score. You got the points in the bank. Ndai could still be decent against West Ham. You're kind of hoping for one return and get as close to 100 as possible. Yeah, hopefully Konsa can get a clean sheet and maybe bonus points. My ideal scenario is probably like a 1-0 Villa win and for someone completely random to score, like Harvey Elliott with no assist, Watkins blank, missing a penalty, Konsa clean sheet and maximum bonus points. But yeah, I woke up. Had Enzo on the bench and Bruno pen miss, otherwise a pretty good day. Well, at least you made a good situation out of it. That can be very frustrating. I don't think benching Enzo or starting Fernandes was a bad idea. One more time. Well, Lag, I did say this before, mate. I wasn't airing your question. For me, Haaland, Gyökeres are two of the best forwards in Game Week 7. And the third one, I would be tempted by someone like Ivanosen or Walter Marder, potentially. That's something I would consider. Mateta isn't too shabby against Everton. Missed some big chances today. He should have done better. And I did mention Watkins, by the way. He was my recommendation against Burnley, believe it or not. I'd probably urge you to ask me again in the deadline stream. I think that could maybe tweak one or two things. But I think Haaland and Gyökeres are quite locked in for a Game Week 7 free hit, for example. If it wasn't for triple captain Haaland, this round would have been an ordinary week. For me, it would have been a terrible week if it wasn't for that. But thankfully, I triple captain Haaland. The Legend of Renegade says, I bought Sarr in Game Week 4 as a backup keeper with the bench boost in 5 in mind. He's been benched twice and conceded 3 when I bench boosted. Yeah, so the other time he didn't play, he was ill, so he didn't travel with the squad. This time round, well, after poor performances and Johnston playing so well in the Carabao Cup, it wasn't a terrible shout to start him. He was also my predicted lineup, actually, Johnston, and it wasn't a big surprise there. Pretty set on doing Eze and Bruno for Salah and Anderson for Game Week 7, but still waiting to see how Eze does tomorrow. Oh, you want to buy Bruno? That's very bold of you, considering all the kind of rhetoric around him. He's suddenly a bum and he can never kick a ball again. Don't get me wrong, I'm frustrated with him, but he is still a decent FPL asset, and if there were more alternatives in the midfield, like Semenyo, then yeah, I wouldn't have gone for Bruno Fernandes, but I don't see that many alternatives. Just a wild thought, do you think Emery sabotages Villa's team somehow to get sacked and take United next? I don't think Emery would do that. I just think he has this period. It happened at PSG and Arsenal where he just loses the dressing room maybe, or he's not getting the team selection right. I don't think he's going to do that intentionally. Spurs barely did anything on the offense in the second half. Yeah, I saw the stats for the whole game. Wolves had a high XG, more big chances. It was still quite level though. I think a draw is probably a fair result, but Wolves, if there was a winner, probably deserved it in the end, but Spurs got the goal. It was a good one by Joao Paulinho. The bonus points for Haaland should show any minute now, probably in the next hour or so. What are your main moves that you're considering for next week? As I said to Lager, at the moment I'm looking to do nothing, but that could easily change after the Champions League. This is a reaction stream, my initial thoughts after the game week, and of course there are still games happening tomorrow and on Monday afterwards. I might have a few different ideas. Yeah, Loving Fantasy Football says, fuck's sake, Wolves fan absolutely fuming. Yeah, look, I said this earlier. A Wolves fan won't be happy, considering they're 1-0 up, to draw in the end. But look, before the game, I think you would have taken a 1-1. And you can build upon this based on what you did against Everton in the Carabao Cup. But yeah, after that late dagger, it's going to feel like an absolute knife in the chest there. So I do feel for you, but yeah, hopefully you can build upon this and get some momentum going and get some results in the Premier League, because it has been a poor season so far. I'm very frustrated with Bruno, but keeping for next week, I think that's the play. I still think that's the way to go. As good as Sunderland have been, when will I learn? Because I had that same mentality with Chris Wood, and it was a big disappointment this week. Richarlison or Sesko for a Game Week 7 punt. I'd still lean towards Richarlison. And I did mention to Lager for the Game Week 7 forwards, apart from Haaland and Gyökeres, who are obvious, I'd still put Ollie Watkins' name in the hat. Ivanosen. Maybe Strand Larsen could be decent as well, by the way. I think Strand Larsen could be quite good, actually. Yeah. Minta and Alderete on the bench, but Bruno to start. What a joke. Yeah, but you couldn't have seen that, right? Fernandes had the penalty. One defensive action away from DEFCON. On another day, you're looking at a massive return. It was just a poor penalty and a bad end to the game from him. So Bruno, I've had him from the start, and that's 2 he's missed. surely Mbeumo should be having a shot now. Yeah, people have said this before. It's a possibility, but let's not forget Mbeumo and Cunha missed crucial penalties against Grimsby Town in the Carabao Cup penalty shootout, whilst Bruno Fernandes scored. But yeah, Fernandes not as consistent from the penalty spot as he used to be. Evening to you as well, JM. I am wrapping up, but good to see you here. A Gamer Time says midfielders already Salah, Anderson, Kudus, and Semenyo. I don't really see any other upgrades than Bruno and an Arsenal asset. Yeah, I think Saka is the one, if you can stretch to him. So I understand that. I also feel the same way. If I could, I would have kept Salah and not bought Bruno. But the main reason was to buy Haaland triple captain. So I'm going to look at the positives of that. And that's the reason why I'm doing well. Yeah, I think so, JM. He might have scored a hat-trick once upon a time at St James's Park. I think that was Nuno's first game in charge of Forest, or one of his first. But yeah, Chris Wood, he might not even start in Game Week 7. A quite clear sell now. I don't think that wishing players like Watkins to blank is good for us viewers, mate. Keep it together. It's not a big deal, mate. I mean, ultimately people say this as well in the Discord server and the live chat. You know, with players I've got, it's nothing personal, right? I've had Watkins all season. The moment I sell him over the years, he always does well. I think he's going to score tomorrow. So I'm just hoping it doesn't happen. I'm just being honest. I'm not going to say, I really wish he scores for you. I'm not going to be lying through my teeth there. Let's get Amorim sacked and get Potter to continue Man United's journey to the abyss. Look, Graham Potter did a good job at Brighton, but United's a different kettle of fish. I don't think he's quite cut out for the big jobs. And obviously, for West Ham, he didn't do the job either. But, you know, Amorim, if he doesn't beat Sunderland next week, I think he's sacked during the international break. Even with that result against Chelsea, I don't think that's enough to save him. Thank you, Austin. I'll see you very soon. The next stream will be on Tuesday, which will be extremely busy. All members and patrons have a massive advantage of getting early access to my videos and also priority reply to comments. Many other perks can also be found in the description. So I'll see you on Tuesday. Thank you, JM. To be honest, I was going Foden or Bruno. Lucky it didn't pay. Yeah, Foden getting booked. So close to scoring the opening goal, but Estev tapped it into his own net. I honestly thought after Bruno's penalty miss that Foden would produce a monster haul. So I'm quite thankful that didn't happen. Would you rather get Mbeumo or Richarlison just for next week? Richarlison for me. Not a particularly great performance from him. Mbeumo won a penalty, and it would have been an assist if Fernandes actually converted it. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of either. For Game Week 7, I'd probably lean towards Richarlison. Hang on to Bruno or sell. I'd hang on to him. And if United have a new manager going into Liverpool in Game Week 8, he might even be worth keeping long-term because I think his best position is as an attacking midfielder in a 4-2-3-1 formation, as we saw under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer when he first joined United. John Dewey says, triple captain Haaland, 67 points with Gabriel Tarkowski, Hall left to play. Yeah, that's good. I'd say that's a good score, pretty solid, and decent players left. So you could get to 80 by the end of the game week. Anish says, hey mate, this game week has been okay for me. Green arrow, and I didn't take a -4 to do Palmer to Bruno, thank God. Yeah, that's the bright side of it. It still resulted in a net gain from that particular transfer. But if you did buy Erling Haaland with that, then it's no problem whatsoever. That's why I'm quite happy overall. Thank you, Ricky Rich. Best of luck. See you in UCL Fantasy. Yeah, Tuesday's going to be a busy one. I hope to see you there. And keep your eyes peeled for the videos as well. Tomorrow and on Monday. That's the plan. Denegated Game says, Amorim isn't a bad manager. His 3-4-3 formation isn't bad. He just doesn't have the right players for it. I've never said Amorim is a bad manager, to be honest. And I think many people also had maybe not a high opinion of him, but they respected what he did at Sporting. This is the thing, though. If you don't have the right players for a 3-4-3, why do you keep playing the same formation? When he first joined United, I thought he would maybe start with a 4-2-3-1 and gradually ease into the 3-4-3, but he just keeps on going for it. And, you know, you can look at one of two ways. United have a very deep underlying issue, and they need to sort it out. They've also got the owners, the Glazers, they need to go. And a lot of these players have seen multiple managers sacked. So I'd always sympathize with the manager to kind of break that sort of cycle. But if it's not working, you can't just keep doing the same thing and expecting different results. So you need to show a bit of tactical flexibility. Arteta did it when he first joined. You know, as much as he's gotten things wrong in the last year or so, he's done a good job at Arsenal overall. And Amorim would like to get to that sort of position and make United competitive. But he's not. Yeah, as Denegator says, he's too stubborn. That is it can be a quality, but also a fault of a manager. There's no decent coach in the market, even if Amram gets the sack. I get your point, and I also feel that way with Arsenal. Okay, sack Arteta, who do you get in? But with Arne Slot, for example, when Jurgen Klopp left, how many Liverpool fans said they want Arne Slot? Not many, and look what he's done. A great job so far. So sometimes you can find the right manager and maybe an upcoming top manager, you know, from a kind of random league or a 7th or 8th best league in the world. Yeah, Van Dijk has been given to DEFCON. Yeah, there you go. Really consistent performer. On a wild card, I think Van Dijk would be right up there in that defensive line. JM says he's getting the bullet. It might even happen before Sunderland, but I think he'll be given the chance. If he doesn't get the result, he's gone during the international break. Which Arsenal defender to buy? I have 3 transfers. My favourite long-term is Gabriel. Calafiori is still decent, but too injury-prone. Both Timber and Saliba are absolutely fine, but Ben White is knocking on the door. I'd pick an Arsenal centre-back, so Gabriel Saliba. You'll get more goals from the Brazilian, more baseline bonus, and DEFCON from Saliba. So if you are struggling a bit for funds, the extra 0.1 or 0.2, because Gabriel could rise in price tonight, could help you there. Gabriel is my ultimate favourite. A Gamer Time says, you made me think a little different now, Dylan. Might it be better to keep Salah and buy the likes of Zubimendi instead? Not Zubimendi. I'm not trying to say no to everything you say, but after his brace against Forest, my immediate reaction was, don't go for Zubimendi. I'd rather go for Gravenberch, and I don't even like Gravenberch that much in FPL. The best one at that price is Caicedo. Dewsbury is fine. You might even consider Reinders still. I would not buy Zubimendi, but consider Caicedo still. Yeah. Looking to sell Salah and Caicedo. Why? I mean, Caicedo is just going to give you 4 or 5 points consistently. If you do something like Salah to Saka and then Caicedo to Ndai or Ismaila Sarr, I could maybe get on board with that, but yeah, I think Salah could be an underrated option for the next 2 game weeks. He's just not worth 14.5 million. Marco Silva could be a shout for United. He's done a very good job at Fulham, but it's a different kettle of fish managing one of the biggest clubs in world football. I digress, Dylan. Ten Hag is available again. Yeah, that's true. So is Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Not Jose Mourinho, though. He's at Benfica now. Denegator Game says, Borro, Williams, Virgil van Dijk, Konsa, Stev want to make a defensive transfer this week. 0.3 in the bank. Transfer thoughts. I think Borro, Van Dijk are clear holds for now. You could maybe argue that Borro's a sell in game week 8 or 10, around that stage. I'd start Virgil van Dijk, Konsa, and Borro next week. You don't need to make a defender transfer if you're happy with a back three. Otherwise, I'd probably say something like Williams to Senesi. Keep it simple. Triple captain Haaland and everyone else was below average. Yeah, that carried me this week. I'm not going to be gloating or smug. It would be very shameless if I did that. Best Palace defender? I mean, Mark Gay's been very impressive. Set piece assists in the last 2 games. A few DEFCON here and there. Chris Richards might be the best for DEFCON overall, and he's cheaper. Lacroix's good. Munoz is always an exciting option. I'd probably say Mark Gay right now, to be fair. Probably Mark Gay. 75 with 5 left. Yeah, great score. And I don't know who you've got left, but I'm assuming 1 or 2 are decent. A Gamer Time says, boldly enough, I'm looking at selling Haaland in Game Week 10 to Gyökeres for 3 game weeks and then wildcard in 13. That could work, but selling the likes of Haaland and Salah is always risky. So take it at your own peril. If you've got that sort of idea, you can definitely entertain it. I'm not saying you have to have these players always or you're going to get punished. But with Haaland, of course, the way he's playing right now, he can always score that brace or hat-trick out of nowhere. He did it in the last few minutes against Burnley today after a kind of inevitable 5-pointer. And that would have been very disappointing with a triple captaincy. Noel says, already took a -4 to get rid of Nico Williams to Senesi and Wood to Gyökeres. Long term, that hit pays off. Yeah, and Marcus Senesi, DEFCON machine. Victor Gyökeres might struggle against West Ham this week. I hope that isn't the case, even if I don't wildcard or buy him in for Game Week 7. Would you start Lacroix or Caicedo next week? A slight preference for Lacroix, but Caicedo will probably give you 4 points minimum, assuming he doesn't get booked or red carded, which is a possibility. But I think Caicedo will get 4 points against Liverpool. Lacroix, I think, is probably more likely to give you 6 or above. Thank you, Bada. And yes, I was literally about to go. Thanks for the nice pod as always, Dylan. Have a good one. Thank you. These are my initial thoughts, of course. And the Tottenham Wolves game has just ended 1-1 in that game with a late equaliser by the home side. If you haven't already, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and keep your eyes peeled for more UCL Fantasy and FPL content. You can do so by hitting that notification bell and sharing this video with those that love both fantasy formats. Check all the links in the description. My X, Instagram, and Blue Sky can be found by typing FPL Dylan or Dylan RCM. There's my Discord server, the FPL League, Spotify, and also my Patreon. By clicking the join button on YouTube, you can become a channel member and gain early access to my videos and many other perks like priority reply to comments. That will be extremely useful, to say the least, on Tuesday for that UCL Fantasy Deadline stream where over 1,000 of you are tuning in at the same time, and it's a very busy chat, a lot of questions to go through, and a lot of information, lineups, and team news. Thank you, Lager. I'll see you very soon. The same goes for Kevy and everyone else watching live and also on the playback. Keep your eyes peeled, like I said, for the best wildcard and limitless squads for match day 2. The team selection for the Champions League will be published on Monday, and the next deadline stream is on Tuesday, as I could activate either the limitless or the wildcard chip. I'll see you then.